Hello folks and welcome to our game with myself, James Stapleton, with Michael Verney as ever, and we're joined this morning firstly by Eoin Larkin. We're going to have Kieran Carey on later on, and we'll also have Dublin goalkeeper Sean Brennan. We'll start off with yourself, Eoin. It's All-Ireland semi-final week, Kilkenny against Clare. So this is routine at this stage, just show up, win the match and on to the final.
Well, it's routine, I suppose, to be in an All-Ireland semi-final, Shane. It's not as easy as that going up to Croke Park on Sunday, but look, it's where the lads wanted to be. I suppose winning the Leinster final the way they wanted was kind of a bonus. The kind of first monkey off the back for Derek Ling trophy in the bag. So, but I'm sure they've been working on lots of things now over the last 4 weeks to try and get to the pitch of All-Ireland semi-final.
Just great to have Eoin here, and I want to bring in this comment straight away because I love when lads sew it in straight away. 36 and counting says, Shane, in case you forgot, Kilkenny under Cody bet tip in 3 All-Ireland finals, 3 semi-finals, including 2 humiliations, a qualifier at Nolan Park, and 5 league finals, 3 of which were classic. Now, I just love a lad. There's a lad primed and ready for action. 8:30 Monday morning, bang, straight in, sew it in.
Well, Cody lost 3 All-Ireland finals to Tip as well, so, it's a little bit of a one-sided tweet there. And there was a draw as well, so between 7 finals, he won 3 each, and that's not a bad record considering he's the GOAT.
Yeah, listen, a man stacked it up there. What did you say? 5 league finals as well, many of which you played in on as well. Just here, let's call a spade a spade. I presume Tipperary were one of the teams you disliked playing against most.
I know we like playing against them because we always got the fucking challenge that we wanted. So, but like we love beating them as well. That was even the night we went down to Boris Lee, we wanted to still win. Like we were all out lads last day. We wanted to still win, But I know there were always great battles, and you knew what you were going to get with Tip as well. I didn't want to stick it in there to Tip this morning, Michael, but you brought it up. Like I was Shane a bit. Is he a bit sore after the last 4 weeks, or?
Very sore.
Around.
Very sore.
It hasn't been great. It's been a tough one. It's been a tough one to take. Did you always think Derek Ling would end up being a manager, or like when he was a player, was he a leader in the dressing room?
Yeah, definitely. He was definitely one of the leaders that was there when I was there, and he took the under-20 job. I probably didn't expect him to take the senior job as quick, to be fair, because he's young family and all that kind of stuff. So, but look, I don't think he's changed too much, from what Cody was doing over the last couple of years. He'd be kind of one of Cody's kind of pets. So I'd say if there was anyone the job was going to be left there, it was going to be him.
Just one point JJ made, which I thought was a good point, that probably under Brian, Mikey Butler maybe wouldn't have had the license maybe to do what he did in the Leinster finals, and even to go forward and hit the point he got against Galway in the round-robin game. Would that be kind of fair to say that the reins are kind of maybe loosened a tiny bit in that respect?
Probably are, yeah. I was looking at that and I was saying, what is this lad going forward this far for? But he just kept going and kept going. It was some finish, to be fair. If a forward finished a goal like that, lads would be raving about it. But I'd say probably Brian was always kind of, go to the 65, and if you have to go any further, hold back and come back and protect the goal. But look, Mikey's been a real find. Kills me to say it now because he's from O'Loughlin's, but he has been a real find for Kilkenny over the last couple of years. And look, he's going to have another tough job, I'd say, on Sunday as well.
In fairness to you, Eoin, you've never held back with your hatred for the other 2 teams within Kilkenny City.
Well, they hate me as well, Michael. So I'm just returning the favour, like.
Are there any? What are you looking forward to seeing from Kilkenny this weekend against Clare? And do you think, because Clare have those injury issues at 3 and 6, maybe Conlon will play? Do you think that makes them vulnerable again?
Yeah, it does, but I think it probably makes Kilkenny vulnerable as well, because they could be thinking, John Conlon is missing, Conor Cleary is missing. It mightn't be as tough a job, and going into an All-Ireland semi-final, I don't think he can go in with that kind of an attitude. I'm actually worried about this game Sunday. I was worried last year now, and in fairness, Kilkenny came up trumps and but Clare didn't arrive on the day either. And I think Clare are in a better position this year. They were probably relying a bit too much on Tony Kelly last year, and once that threat was nullified, Kilkenny were always going to win. But I think Shane O'Donnell is coming into a good bit of form. Peter Duggan, Ryan Taylor, Dave Fitzgerald in the middle of the field is having a super year as well. So like it's not just going to be Tony Kelly that they're going to have to worry about this year. It's going to be all those other lads as well. And I just worry maybe that Kilkenny don't have probably the backs to withstand that. And it's going to be a really, really tough job for them.
Yeah, would you be worried about the midfield on in particular? Something that you haven't had set, like you haven't really had a settled midfield, I'd say, in 5 or 6 years potentially. There's been always interchangeable feats, and thinking of like Alan Murphy comes in at different times. Richie Latty used to come in. Conor Brown has played. Like there's been a lot of different names. Conor Fogarty comes in and he starts other games, and then he's taken off maybe early. Like it's kind of been a bit of an interchangeable feast. You look at the Clare midfield, it's usually Malone and Taylor. And like that is a really solid midfield that can hurt you at both ends of the field, really,
Yeah, and even Dave Fitzgerald plays there sometimes as well. Like they have maybe 2 or 3 that interchange, but as you said, Kilkenny don't really have a settled midfield at the moment. And the other thing this year has been the centre back issue. Richie Reid has been injured for 1 or 2 games, and they're chopping and changing. So they have no real centre back either. I gather Richie Reid is going to be fit. I hope he is, that he can slot back in there. But like you said, the midfield is the one place that they're changing all the time. You really don't know what you're going to get. And even at that, then they're probably making a substitution or two, 40 or 50 minutes in as well. So that's changing it up again. But like whoever plays there are going to have their work out, because the Clare midfield are just up and down the field, fitness to burn, and we just don't seem to have that. Those 2 lads that can go for 70 minutes, like your Dave Fitzgerald's, Cotton Malone's, and those lads. And I think that's going to be a key area on Sunday.
If you were Derek Ling, force I have to say Brian Cody, but if you were Derek Ling, would you look at the full back line that started the last day for Clare? And it could change. Adam Hogan, Rory Hayes, Shane Amori, none massively overly physical, and think we load up the full forward line here with TJ Reid, Owen Cody, and maybe even somebody like Wally Walsh, and launch the ball in on.
That was the actual full forward line I was just thinking about during the week. Maybe put TJ in full forward, you could put Wally in the corner and have Owen Cody then maybe just breaking off him. And if it was me and I was Derek Ling, I'd say maybe fire in the first 5 or 6 balls high, and like TJ is very good in the air. Obviously Wally is good in the air, and if they don't catch it, just break and let Owen Cody come in around. A couple of goals could be got there in the first 10 or 15 minutes, and that could really set the tone then for the rest of the game.
Yeah, that's why I'd make Kilkenny favourites here, Michael.
I'd be the same, Shane, to be honest with you. I see Adrian McGrath said everyone must be on the beer in Clare, that they've backed Clare into favouritism. Like obviously there's the Munster against Leinster thing, and a lot of people would say that obviously the strength of Munster is a lot more than Leinster, and that Clare are bringing better form to the table. But yeah, I'd be the same. The one thing I'd have with Clare is I still wouldn't be 100% sure what you're going to get. A fair idea of what you're going to get from Kilkenny on Sunday. Just wouldn't be 100% sure what you're going to get from Clare. And they surely have the bit between their teeth. They love a good cause. They have some cause going in Sunday, because they were absolutely humiliated in the same fixture 12 months ago. And if you're talking about like Tony Kelly and proving a point or whatever, like surely he's going to want to play a starring role on Sunday after probably what was the worst performance that he ever gave in the Clare jersey last year. And just something I put you on Tony Kelly. I kind of think that Tony Kelly doesn't necessarily have to score 1-5 on Sunday, but he could take Mikey Butler into maybe areas of the pitch that he might want to be. He could occupy a player, create a lot of space for a hell of a lot of other lads that maybe wouldn't have been capable of standing up to the extent that they could stand up Sunday. Like if you look at it, if Tony Kelly brings Mikey Butler off somewhere and kind of pulls the Kilkenny defence out of kilter a small bit, Rodgers can do well and exploit the space. O'Donnell can do well and exploit the space. Shane Meehan even coming in off the bench, David Fitzgerald, etc. So I actually don't think he needs to score a huge amount on Sunday, and I think he could still have a massive impact on the game, though.
Well, this is it. That's why I said earlier on, they were probably relying a little bit too much on Tony Kelly last year, whereas other lads are coming into form. And I think you're right. I think Tony Kelly probably needs to sacrifice himself on Sunday, because he knows he's going to be a marked man. I'd say the dog in the street probably knows Mikey Butler is going to pick him up. And I think you're right. If he takes him out the field and just stretches the Kilkenny backline, it leaves space in there for the likes of Fitzgerald coming through, Ryan Taylor, Shane O'Donnell, and even Peter Duggan. and those lads can do damage. And do Kilkenny have the backs that they're going to be able to man mark all of them? I don't think so. Maybe Hugh Lawler will pick up Peter Duggan. Tommy Welsh, probably Ryan Taylor, but still Ryan Taylor drifts out the field as well. So then if you have Mikey Butler and Tommy Welsh gone out and Ryan Taylor, that just leaves Hugh Lawler in full back line with Peter Duggan, and probably Shane O'Donnell and Dave Fitzgerald and these lads coming through as well. But I do think Tony Kelly is probably going to have to sacrifice his own game for the betterment of Clare on Sunday.
Would you have Hugh picking up Duggan, or would you have him picking up one of Clare's more dangerous players? Like, I'm not saying Duggan's not dangerous, but he's more of a workhorse and a forager, if you get me. Like, would you have Lawler, who's probably one of the best man markers? Not even man markers. He just can nullify anybody because he's, I don't know, he's probably about 6'4", 6'5", really athletic, good hurler. Would you have him on Duggan, and maybe if they cancel each other out, I think Clare would be happy enough. Whereas if he picks up, I don't know if he matches up well with a Rodgers or even a Shane O'Donnell potentially out the pitch. But what do you think?
Yeah, it's going to be hard to see. I'm just thinking of Hugh Lawler's height. The rest of them, like Mikey Butler, is kind of small. Tommy Welch is small. Who else are you going to put in Peter Duggan, because he has that aerial threat as well. So it'll all depend where he plays, I think. If he starts full forward, I think Hugh Lawler will pick him up. Maybe if he goes to the corner, they'll let one of the other lads pick him up. But I'm just thinking, on the square, if he's on the square, he is an aerial threat there, and Hugh Lawler is probably your best man there.
Owen, would you not think, like, the way we're talking about Tony Kelly here, that he might sacrifice himself and go take Butler out of the game? This is one of the best players in recent times. Would he not be like, let's get on the ball here, let it in 50-50 between the two of us? Fair enough, Mikey Butler won Young Hurler of the Year, but come here, I'm one of the best going in recent years. I'm going to take him on.
Yeah, absolutely. He probably is of that opinion. I'm just surmising that maybe what happened last year, Mikey Butler kind of hurled him a bit last year. So, I that's the opinion I'd have. That he should just go at the game. I'm just saying, he doesn't have to, as Michael said, he doesn't have to shoot the lights out for Clare to win. Like, to have other lads coming into form. Shane O'Donnell is in great form, able to get scores. Ryan Taylor the same, Peter Duggan the same. To have other lads that they don't have to rely on Tony Kelly all the time now. And if Tony Kelly is held, well, then he has to think to himself, I'm not really going too well here. I'm not getting on the ball. Let's just stretch the Kilkenny defence and bring Mikey Butler for a run around Croke Park.
Right.
Just on that as well, like, it's as Owen said, the dogs in the street know Mikey Butler's going to pick him up. Mikey Butler's probably a bit of a marked man going into Sunday in a way as well. He was maybe a bit of a surprise package last year, and people didn't think he'd go as well. The pressure maybe is a bit more on Mikey Butler Sunday maybe than Tony Kelly in a way. So I just think Kelly could kind of be able to mix his game up. I think he'll take Butler away from the play completely and create space for others. I think he'll also obviously want to have an impact on the scoreboard, because that's what he does. But I just think it'll be interesting. That's going to be a really, really interesting duel on Sunday. Like, if Tony Kelly gets the better of that duel, you'd probably say Clare are probably on the front foot, you'd imagine.
Yeah, and the other side is, if Tony Kelly goes to full forward, is Mikey Butler going to go with him? And they probably, like I said, if Peter Duggan does start full forward, is he going to drag Hugh Lawler out the field and have Hugh Lawler out of full back line and just leave Tony Kelly and Mikey Butler in there? Or likewise, if he goes to centre forward, is Mikey Butler going to go to centre back? I know he did follow him last year. This year is totally different again. Like I said, for all the other reasons, Shane O'Donnell and all those other forwards are in good form. So it's just going to be really interesting to see what happens. And is Mikey Butler going to pick him up everywhere he goes?
Clare folk would be quick to tell you that Tony Kelly was carrying a knock into the game last year as well and wasn't 100%. So I'm not hearing anything about any knocks this year. So he's 100%. Yeah. You've got two lads that are going to go toe to toe. It's definitely probably, I'd say it's one of the juiciest matchups of the weekend anyway.
Yeah, and he's in the form of his life as well, isn't he? What did he get the last day? 3-4.
Yeah.
He's in the form of his life coming in, so there shouldn't be really any excuses coming into this.
Yeah, Clare fully imploded in last year's semi-final. I mean, there was the centre-back thing. They made the wrong, Brian Lohan made the wrong selection, I felt at the time. I just didn't see what player the substitute was going to match up with. Obviously, he made a mistake in the Munster final by leaving Keane Nolan on Aaron Gallant for so long. I mean, we all saw, obviously you're going to try some player on him, but leaving him for so long. And then Adrian McGrath's in. that Clare had 40 shots last year and blew a goal chance before half-time. It wasn't the defence that cost us as much as the attack, despite the narrative. Well, I think it was David McInerney and Diarmuid Ryan shooting from 100 yards time after time also. Like, that sucks the life out of the team. And think of how often Shane O'Donnell and Ian Galvin had high ball going in on top of them against that Kilkenny defence. So to me, Owen, any chance that Clare had, they had themselves shot in the foot.
They did. You know, they bet themselves last year, in fairness. And, you know, what was it, 40 shots there as well? You know, you need to have a higher percentage rate than they got last year. But look, as I said, Michael is right about what kind of Clare team is going to turn up. You know, they haven't really got over the line in big games. You know, should have bet Limerick last year, possibly could have bet them this year, not hurling as well as they did. You know, so, you know, are they able to get over the line? You know, only time will tell, I suppose. But you know,
pressure's on Clare, isn't it? Yeah. To me, now the pressure's on Clare and the pressure's on Brian Lawn. Like, there's no point in any different. I think he got a free pass for the call he made in the All-Ireland semi-final last year, rightly or wrongly, because he's adored in Clare. He got a free pass for the Cian Nolan decision in the Munster final. And it was one thing, as you say, Shane, one thing putting him on him. And you'd, like, Owen, you're involved in management this year, and Shane is as well. You might have a matchup in your head. If it's not working after 20 minutes, it's not working. And you change it and you regroup and you go again. But the stubbornness to stick with what they stuck with was a bit bizarre. And he's had a couple of free passes, but to me, like, Clare have to win on Sunday. They have to win on Sunday. And I know Davey said it kind of tongue-in-cheek that there were managers in their job 3 or 4 years that hadn't won anything and they weren't getting any abuse. But if this year ends and Clare aren't in an All-Ireland final at the very least, not that he's coming under pressure, but you can't get a free pass forever either. Yeah, well, it's not progression then, is it? You know, you're after being in 2 Munster finals, lost to both of them, 2 All-Ireland semi-finals, lost to both of them as well. So, you know, he has to. Yeah, like you said, is it coming under pressure, or is it just time to let a new voice in there, because there doesn't seem to be any progression? Well, on the other hand of that, you know, like you talk about Aaron Gillan taking Cian Nolan to the cleaners and Brian Lawn not making a change. Clare had the chances to still win that game. You know, from 40, maybe 50 yards out in front of the goal, and, you know, 3 or 4 or 5 maybe balls that just sailed off wide. You know, you could argue they should have had a free in the last minute as well, but they had the chances before that as well to win the game. You know, and that's a big question mark for Clare going into Sunday. You know, are they able? Do they have the mental capacity to go over the line?
What have you been impressed by with Kilkenny this year?
Not a whole lot, to be fair. I think they've been up and down. You know, they
were only playing in Leinster. They were only playing in Leinster.
That's a typical Munster man's answer now. That's what that is.
You can't talk to lads like that, on. There's no reason with lads like that.
By Sunday evening, we could have 2 Leinster teams in the All-Ireland final. Now, where's the Munster debate then?
Well, one Connacht team potentially.
We'll call him a Leinster team. But, yeah, look, and that's the question. You know, like, we always had that as well, Shane. You know, we're only getting ready for an All-Ireland semi-final. You know, we'll just breeze through Leinster. You still have to go out and do it. You know, you still have to go out and win the game. And Galway proved in 2012 that, you know, you don't just turn up either, you know.
But again, back to Kilkenny this year, are there any players that have really stepped up to you?
No, I think everybody's just doing their own job, really. You know, I've been impressed with Hugh Lawler since he's come into the Kilkenny panel, and obviously Mikey Butler as well, I said. I think Owen Cody needs a good game on Sunday. You know, he hasn't been. I don't think he's been firing the way he has been firing the last couple of years, and, you know, hopefully he's just coming into a bit of form. I think he needs that. I think he needs to have a good game on Sunday. You know, because I'd say TJ is probably going to be man marked, and they need someone else to step up. You know, who knows what the rest of the forward line is. You know, is Mossy Keoghan going to be fit? Is Billy Ryan going to start? Is Wally Welsh going to start? And another player, just, you know, I would have played with him a lot. Richie Hogan, like, he's only played, I think, 2 or 3 games in the last 3 years. You know, why is he still there? Is he fit enough to play? Is he fit enough to be on the bench? You know, and I think he could offer something if he is fit on Sunday, be that, you know, starting or even coming off the bench. You know, he has that experience of being in All-Ireland semi-finals. He's won All-Irelands, obviously. And I think Kilkenny could need that experience on Sunday.
And Michael, did you notice there that the two players that impressed him, Mikey Butler and Lawler this year, both O'Loughlin's lads?
Yeah, no, they must have really impressed them. It wouldn't be said.
I'm nearly 40, lads. I'm gone soft in my old age.
Can I ask you about Owen Cody? Owen, I think all the potential is there, and at times we see it, and there's times he cuts loose in certain games. But I don't know. I kind of feel like the ball is around him a lot, and a lot of the time sometimes it doesn't end up in his hand. Like he's in around the play an awful lot. I can see him go down for a good few pickups and not ending up with the ball in his hand, be it from pressure or otherwise. But I think if there's certain things sharpened in his game that he could be potentially lethal, but it's just that the consistency element, like the real top lads, if a ball goes into Patrick Horgan and it's a 60-40 ball in his favour, that's in his hand, that's sniped over the bar. Same with TJ. But I just kind of feel with Owen Cody, maybe that killer mentality is not totally there yet. Maybe it will come, but just maybe not yet there at the moment.
Yeah, I felt it was there now last year and the year before. Any ball that went into him, he was doing something with it, whether that be a score or set up a score or pass it off. I don't know what it is this year. Like you said, the ball just seems to be enough ball going in there that he should be destroying defenders, but most of it is coming back out the way. And is that the captaincy thing, weighing pressure on him? Who knows? Only he'll be able to say that. But I do think there should be a big game in him. And as you said, if he just sharpens up, the bit of a touch and the hand, he's capable of going to town on someone,
Is it looking like, Owen, that Adrian Mullen could feature at some stage? By all accounts, I'm hearing he has a hurl back in his hand anyway. And he'd be a fair boost. Even at 60%, Mullen would be a fair boost.
Yeah, there is talk of it now. I don't know. I haven't heard I had a hurl back in his hand, but there was talk that he was going to play some part. That would be a huge boost because, as we know, Kilkenny are not blessed with, they're not blessed with forwards, and they don't have the same firepower coming in off the bench. So if they could get Adrian back for even 40 or 50 minutes, maybe, or even the last 20 minutes, just to give him a boost off the line coming in and maybe grab a couple of scores as well, that'd be a huge boost to him.
There's a question here from Detox 101. Owen has always called a spade a spade. Is there any lack of heart in the current Kilkenny camp, or are they just not as capable as the great team? And he adds in, or confidence either. Now, I'm not sure if you even agree with the question, but there you go. What do you think?
No, I think maybe the one thing probably that's missing now this Kilkenny team is the killer instinct. I suppose when you go back to 2006, maybe to 2014, if we got a chance to kill off a game, we killed it. More often than not. And I don't think that this Kilkenny team have that. They seem to, like we were 8 points up on Galway in the Leinster final and very nearly lost it. They let.
I think he's been man-marked, Shane, is he?
Yeah, we've lost him there for a second.
Mikey Butler's
sorry.
after taking him out. Mikey Butler's after taking him out again.
I'm after getting a phone call there. That's what happened.
Cody, or Derek Ling.
Derek is on to me. He wants me to play centre forward. I told him I need a bit more time to get fit. So if you get to the All-Ireland final, give me a shout.
I'd say Derek is on to tell you to shut up. I'd say.
I'd say that could be it. The Loughlin's chairman is ringing me there. Don't be telling the lads boosting their confidence rather than going into the club championship.
But just you were saying about that question about Kilkenny. What do you think about what's the current camp, the current setup? It's just
the killer instinct. I think is just really not there. Like I said, we were 8 points up against Galway and very nearly let it slip. If I suppose if our team got that chance and we're 8 points up, we'd be 9, 10, 11, 12. And just the game would just peter out after that. That's the one.
Is that a quality? Is that a quality thing, or what do you think, or is it a mindset? Or
I think it's a little bit of both. I think like when you get 8 points up, it has to be a mental thing. We're going after the next ball and we want the next score, and just close up shop at the back and don't let them in for any soft goals or anything like that. So I think that is a mental thing, and that comes from their forwards as well, that they don't stop working and let quality ball into their forward line.
Yeah, 100%. Just on the old guard, on Conor Fogarty obviously featured. He started the Leinster final. Wally came in. Killian Buckley got the goal. Them boys obviously still have a fair role to play. And as you said, Richie could have a role to play yet too.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say Conor Fogarty probably will start midfield. Killian, obviously, I think will come in from the bench. And look, I hope Richie Hogan, for his sake, he hasn't played a whole lot. I hope he is fit and is on the panel for Sunday and does get a run, because I think he has something to offer. I don't actually know what's going on. Is it still his back? Is that him? I haven't heard anything. It just seems to be all quiet around Richie Hogan at the moment. And obviously, I think Wally will have a big part to play as well, whether that be, starting from the start and maybe target the Clare full back line, or coming in and trying to win a bit of ball in the second half, maybe.
Can I just ask you something quickly on just
yeah.
I would rate TJ's performances over probably the past 7-8 years as high as anything I've seen, because of the team around him in comparison to year team. And I just not having a go. It's just year team was literally, there was like all-stars everywhere, and different lads could step up on a different day. You could shoot the lights out one day, Henry do it another day, Eddie do it another day, Martin Comfort. Whereas I think TJ nearly has to do it every day. And like, personally, I would nearly, and you've obviously played with them all, I would nearly have him up the very top of Kilkenny players over the last 30 or 40 years, just because of he has to deliver every day, and he generally does.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I don't think there's, what you're going to get from him, really, don't you? Every day he goes out, like, even if he's being man-marked, he always comes up with a couple of plays or a couple of points and, gets Kilkenny over the line, more often than not. In saying that, he is 35 years of age now. Do we expect the same level of, performance out of him that we have over the last couple of years? Probably not. And that's why I think we should start him, from the start of the year. I said he should be playing full forward. He probably doesn't have the legs he had probably last year or even the year before, and that, I'm afraid, that happens to us all. So I think full forward is his best place to play now, and really go at the Clare defence. I thought he should have been there from the start of the year, but I think from even the first 10 or 15 minutes, throw him in there, leave a load of high ball in there, and he has a good hand. He's able to score. It could be the win and losing the game.
The talk, like Patrick Horgan has said that he's happy to play again next year, and obviously he's one of the greats. Seamus Callanan will wait and see what he says. Do you expect TJ Reid to stay around? Like, I'd say he's a baby, isn't even one yet, maybe 6 or 8 months or whatever. So obviously that's on his plate as well. But would you expect to see him next year? Because he's probably still in the top 6 forwards in Kilkenny, even if he's going to turn 36.
Yeah, and look, I'd hope he would, because it doesn't seem to be another TJ Reid coming at the moment. But look, that's going to be a decision for himself. There comes a time in every person's life that you have to say, after giving maybe 13 or 14 years to it, and like you say, he's a young family now as well. So priorities change and stuff like that. So that'll be a decision for himself. Look, we'd obviously love to see him back again next year, in a Kilkenny jersey, but who knows?
Do you think there's a fear in the Clare psyche? They've only ever beaten Kilkenny once in championship. That was the 97 semi-final. So do you think that in any way there might be an inferiority complex if it's tight coming down the last?
No, I don't think they fear Kilkenny. I think they have more of a fear of getting over the line in games, in important games. Like I mentioned, the Munster final this year and the Munster final last year. Probably should have won the 2 games and didn't get over the line. Now, I know, look, you could argue it's not knockout and they have another chance, but still, last year in the All-Ireland semi-final, then after kind of the Munster final, they didn't perform, and that's what they need to do. They need to perform in an All-Ireland semi-final, be it against Kilkenny or anyone else. And they need to be, within touching distance going down the home straight. And then we'll see, can they push on and can they get to an All-Ireland final and eventually go over the line in the knockout game, I suppose.
If people were wondering, we're supposed to have Kieran Carey on, but I think he might have fallen asleep. I just tried to ring him there a minute ago. I think he's asleep. Michael, you wanted to say something there?
Just a quick one for you, Owen. You mentioned about TJ there. Kilkenny aren't going to disappear or anything like that, far from it. But is there a worry when he retires? Like, even just from a free-taking point of view, probably 95% of them are going to go over. He's probably going to take the best man marker on the other team. You can horse a high ball down on top of him. Like, is there a genuine worry? Like, Adrian Ronan was on this show maybe, a week before the Leinster Championship started. He just said the people of Kilkenny are kind of realising that TJ's days are probably numbered. we need to make hay while the sun is shining because we don't have a replacement for someone like him. Is there, a worry for not what's coming, but is there a worry for life after TJ Reid and whether Kilkenny can win All-Irelands without him in the next 4 to 5 years if he's not around?
Yeah, well, there probably is, there probably is, because, there's not another TJ Reid coming, or as far as I can see, there's not anyway. And, if you go back to the early 2000s, you had DJ, and then Henry was coming on, and then you had TJ was coming after that. So that's after, for the last 20 years, that's after kind of being the way it's gone, one passes to the next. But, who's going to take over the mantle after TJ goes? There doesn't seem to be another one coming. In saying that, in a year or two, maybe someone will step up to the plate and take it over. But, you would be worried because, as you said, you always know what you're going to get. It's always 95% performance out of them. The freeze is always, 9 out of 10 going over, maybe, most of the time, probably 10 out of 10. But who's going to take over that mantle for Kilkenny when he goes? And look, let's be honest, he's 35 years of age. He's not going to last that much longer, be that maybe he comes back next year and possibly the year after. Who knows? But look, I think we have to get working on the next TJ Reid to come through.
Big time. Just question in there from Peter J. Gowan. He said, wonder what Owen thinks regarding the best KK player of all time. He played with most of them. Well, he's cancelling me out straight away, isn't he? Good man, Peter. He's also trying to get you in a bit of trouble, I'd say, by nailing your colours to the mast and picking out one of I don't know how many.
I'm not picking out any of the Loughlin's dads here anyway. But, I know. Look, TJ or Henry, I suppose, for me, probably two of the best. And if you went back to the back line, then JJ and Tommy, you couldn't pick between the two of them either.
Right, you've named four. Is there any more you want to name there? Just to spread it out.
We just go through the whole team, will we?
Who's the toughest man you ever played against? And it doesn't even have to be a direct marker, but just someone on an opposition team or like, geez, that guy is serious.
I had good battles with Declan Fannin over the years.
I knew you were going to say him. Yeah, just because he always looked like he'd be in your face, teeth tough, all over you, wouldn't give you an inch.
Yeah, I always felt like he had about 5 hands as well. The hurl would be on one side, and be 3 hands wrapped around you as well. So, I know he was tough. He was physical as well, which was tough. He was a tough man to mark. Yeah. It's funny, just going back to, I think it was the league game, them yellow cards were in. I remember Martin Comfort coming on, and the two of them, he was only after coming on and got the yellow card into the sin bin. The two of them were gone.
That was the 09 one, was it, in Thurles?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Just your thoughts on the other semi-final then, Limerick Galway. And we know that Hannon is supposed to be out of this game. They put out a press release a few weeks ago. Sean Finn is out of this game. So they've already sort of had to rejig a little bit to cover off for Finn, and Mike Casey's in there, obviously a very good player. But now Hannon, with him gone, do you put like a holding 6 there, like for example Dan Morrissey, or more of a attacking one like Nash or Kyle Hayes, or Keane Lynch could be he played their minor or whatever, he's so classy. Like, what would you do here if you were John Kiley?
Yeah, it's hard to know. Hard to know what to do, really, to be honest. I don't think Keane Lynch is fully fit, and I'd say that's probably why he's not playing. I think they'll go with Dan Morrissey in there, to be fair. Maybe Kyle Hayes to the wing. Look, it's hard to know what's left in Limerick, because they're just getting over the line in games. They're not kind of trashing teams the way they did a couple of years ago, but they still seem to have that hunger to get over the line. In saying that, they're still getting over the line. Nobody can beat them, and they are the team to beat. I really don't know if Galway have it in them to beat them. Galway seem to be just possibly getting there at this stage. Don't seem to be shooting the lights out, but seem to be, thereabouts in all games. And I'd say it'll be the same. I'd have the questions for Galway as I would for Clare. Can they do it in a knockout game? Can they get over it in a tight game? Obviously, they got caught in the Leinster final with a sucker punch, but I think they'll be thereabouts, and I just question, can they get over the line in a tight game? Whereas Limerick can. Limerick can.
Would you have found it odd watching Henry on the sideline for Galway. And especially down in Nolan Park this year, a couple of times he was roaring in about Kilkenny lads diving. So I thought I'd say that must have been a funny one for the Kilkenny locals to watch.
Probably was, but look, I think in these days you have managers from all different counties going to other counties. So I think there was a lot made of Henry obviously going up to Galway, but look, it's like after the first game, it just becomes normal. I think and manager obviously is going to back his own team and try and get the best out of them, and obviously he's going to try and influence the referee as well. So Henry is no different in that to any other manager.
It's good to know that a Kilkenny man thinks that Kilkenny dive.
No, I didn't say that. I never agreed.
No, I meant Henry.
Oh, Henry. Well, look, he probably does, but sure, look, isn't everyone at it at the moment?
Yeah, it's true.
Trying to buy frees and all that kind of stuff, and just on the refereeing thing as well. I hope the referees on Sunday and Saturday evening actually let the game go, and it's not a free taking competition, because I know there is directives from Crow Park now for different tackles that have to be blown up and that kind of stuff. But look, we all want to see two very good games with limited stoppages, I suppose.
We're talking about fouls and lads maybe buying frees. To be fair now, you were one of the first to drop the head.
Don't go down there now. Don't go down that road.
Am I not right in saying you were one of the first to drop the head?
Maybe, but that was just the way I used to be going forward at players.
I think you showed Kenny how to do it as well.
You can't tackle in around the neck. You should know that.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. You can't. All right, it's not much you can do if it goes down like this.
But sure, everyone is doing it now.
And I think, do you know what? And it's funny. A lot of the referees aren't blowing them now. They're just like, hands up in the air. You're looking for it too much. If it's a genuine free, they'll blow it. And if you're not kind of looking for it, they'll blow it. But if it looks like you're looking for it and you kind of nearly stop, I think they're just. It's obvious. It's not in the rule book or anything like that. But I think it's maybe a directive that the referees are just saying, listen, lads are trying to buy frees here. Just let play on, and maybe lads will stop doing it or whatever if we don't blow.
This is it. I think lads do it and then they just stop, expecting the whistle to be blown. And more often than not, then the referees just play on kind of thing. Whereas if you do it and you kind of keep going as if you want to, you weren't trying to buy a free. Advantage then, and on you go,
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, there's a question in from Hugh Paddy there. He just said there's talk of Gerard Hegarty potentially playing 6 for Limerick, and would this be totally off the wall? Like, in one sense, it wouldn't be that off the wall because he played wing back under Kiley in an under 21 All-Ireland. He won a Fitzgibbon wing back. But I just think I don't think Kiley and Kinnerk kind of operate like that. Like, I was at the Munster League game earlier on this year where they played Cork. Dan Morrissey was centre back. Hannon was out for the league final. Dan Morrissey played centre back. Like, I don't think they'll make a load of switches to put one lad in. I think they'll go with what makes more sense, and it's a tried and trusted. People that say Darragh O'Donovan maybe would drop back 6. He plays there for Doon. There was talk of David Reedy playing a bit there as well in recent weeks. But I kind of think it's a bit of a no-brainer. I just don't think they'll go that far outside the box. They'll stick with what they know they're going to get.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think Gerard Hegarty, I think he's too effective on the half-hour line to take him out of there. And I think, as you said, Kiley and Kinnerk, they don't do that kind of thing. I think they'll just slot in Dan Morrissey or even maybe Kyle Hayes in there, and away they'll go again. The team hasn't changed. The Limerick team hasn't changed over the last 3 or 4 years, bar maybe one corner forward, and maybe Kyle Hayes used to start 6 or 11, and now he's gone back to wing back. But other than that, barring injuries, it hasn't really changed.
Adrian McGrath says that 100% won't be Morrissey playing at centre back. Can't understand these debates, not mentioning Diarmuid Burns, who's one of the few Limerick backs who wants to sit in and strike the ball like Hannon does. Seems obvious to me. I mean, that could happen. The only reservations I'd have about starting Dan Morrissey there is you're then taking 2 pieces of your full back line out, and it's an awful lot of rejigging. Michael, who was it we were talking to recently that was saying if you take Finn out of the full back line, it kind of takes away some of that sort of safety blanket for the other lads who are in the full back line. And if Hannon isn't there, maybe that takes away a bit of the safety blanket for Burns and Hayes. I don't know whether they need it, but like, you get confidence from the leaders in your line.
Oh, totally, yeah. Plus, Sean Finn is their best man marker in the full back line. They don't really have an obvious replacement for him. They don't have, like, Dan Morrissey could slip in 6, but with due respect to him, he will not play the role the same as Declan Hannon. He can't knit the play as efficiently as Hannon can. He probably can't surge forward and score from 100 yards like Declan Hannon can. And just something I put to you on, is there any sense of deja vu here, that this looks a bit like 2010 with yourselves, where there was a couple of injuries and there's just...
Jeez, don't mind the injuries.
No, but just even... Like, I was chatting Martin Fogarty the other day, and he said whatever about Henry and John Tennyson. He said missing Brian Hogan was the biggest of them all. He said he broke his finger, I think, or re-injured his finger in the build-up to the final. But then all of a sudden, you have Henry playing on one leg, you have Tennyson playing on one leg, you have no Brian Hogan. All you're going deeper into your squad. Your options coming off the bench aren't as good. Is there any sense of history repeating itself here?
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, I think Sean Finn, first and foremost, he's a massive, massive loss. But I think Declan Hannon is going to be a serious loss. Just on Declan Hannon, who actually came in for Declan Hannon when he went off the last couple of days?
Colin Coughlin came in wing back, I think, and Kyle Hayes went to centre back the last day. Yeah.
So maybe that's what they'll do. Kyle Hayes will probably go centre back.
Or did he? Actually, I'm not 100% certain.
Yeah.
Dan Morris. Yeah, and Richie English came in as well. So yeah.
So like, they have a couple of options there. To throw Mike Casey in full back, bring Dan Morrissey out, and start Richie English, or does Colin Coughlin come in and Kyle Hayes goes centre back. But like you say, like, you can have injuries and you can fill him in, but your centre back and your talisman and your captain and the lad that links up all the play, when he's gone, do you have a ready replacement there? The answer is no, you don't. For the likes of Declan Hannon, and we didn't have for obviously Brian Hogan at the time, and that can sap the confidence out as well. I remember talking to, like, I think we were only 2 points down or 3 points down maybe against Tipperary in 2010, and I remember talking to Kanasicki after the game, and he said, I knew we were a bit at half time, and I says, why? Everyone's head was down, confidence was at an all-time low going into the dressing room, and he said he knew, even though we were in the game, he knew we were a bet. And that could have a serious effect. I know Declan Hannon started the last couple of games, but went off. Not the same thing, I don't think. When you're leading into it, and Declan Hannon is not going to be playing, it might just seep that little bit of confidence out. And if Galway can gather that momentum that they got the last day against Tipperary, it could just be the swing that they need.
The last time Hannon wasn't on the pitch as well, Kilkenny beat them in 2019 when he went off at half time. But I don't think that's a coincidence either.
Yeah, he has been. He has been the standout player. I don't think there's a game you could say Declan Hannon had a poor game over the last 3 or 4 games or 3 or 4 years. He's always come up with a couple of points and dictated the play from centre back. So he's going to be a huge loss.
Yeah, okay, we're joined now by my old Coola teammate, Sean Brennan, who's, of course, goalkeeper for Dublin these days. Sean, you played against 3 of the 4 semi-finalists this year, Galway, Kilkenny and Clare. Obviously, that didn't go your way in the quarter-final the last day out. You haven't played against Limerick this year. But what game are you looking forward to this weekend?
I'm actually probably looking forward to Clare, Kilkenny the most, I'd say. Just obviously Clare are out for blood now, given the bit of a hiding they got last year in the semi-finals. I'm looking forward to see if they can kind of set the record straight on that. Obviously, Limerick Galway was a fairly close game. It was at 1 point going into extra time or into added time last year, and then Limerick pulled it away 1-3 in the end, wasn't it? So we should be getting 2 crackers, hopefully. Yeah.
What are they like to play against? I mean, you're obviously, as a goalkeeper, do these teams set up massively differently against you? Like, does one team present a different sort of challenge for you than others?
I think roughly speaking, what you see in front of you is relatively the same. They're all kind of give you some kind of a split that's tempting you into certain pockets. Like, that doesn't really change. Maybe the second half against Galway, they might have squeezed a lot stronger than maybe you normally would as well. Obviously, with a bit of a breeze there, it was hard to get puckouts off that day, and obviously they had a really aggressive press on. So, but now generally they're half press and half sitting off, but they're trying to tempt you into hitting certain little pockets.
And are Kilkenny generally seem to be one of the best teams in sort of, panicking opposition goalkeepers or whatever with the puckouts. Are they particularly difficult to set up against, and is that what Eva Quilligan will be up against?
Yeah, I think it's Kilkenny are probably better at when the ball's really So if the ball goes to a cornerback, they're very good at sucking that cornerback into a little trap. And then by the time the cornerback realizes he's in the trap, it's nearly too late for him to come back out and switch the play. Like they manage to swarm the 3 or 4 guys to the ball. Like, so it's kind of impressive how they do it, and they do it without you even knowing they're doing it. Next thing it's like, oh crap, here I'm in trouble.
Yeah,
Sean, I have to ask you, what was it like playing in goals with this other ape in front of you, wing back?
I want to be invited back on, Verney, at some stage, maybe. So it's probably best to keep my mouth shut there, is it?
I've been the king of his PR campaign for the last 10 years.
Oh,
He's not going to start
Jesus.
slating me now, Verney.
No, I can't. I have to keep my powder dry.
It'd be funny if he just jumped ship now and just, you know, he's in there now. I don't need saying anymore.
Stop. But look, he was a good man to do a bit of yap, but could rarely back it up anyway. That's all I'll give you for now.
Good man. At least you're an honest man.
Anyway.
Jesus.
What do you think then in terms of like the goalkeepers that are operating this weekend? People would generally say that Nicky Quaid and Owen Murphy are up there with the very best. Would you look at their games, and what would you see when you're looking at their game?
Yeah, absolutely. Like as a goalkeeper, you're always looking for the extra 1%. Like, so it's probably the area of the game I watch most carefully is what the other goalkeepers are doing, you know, and how maybe is there anything from their games that I can maybe pull into my own game. That was the thing with maybe Nicky Quaid that impressed me the most. Is just his position always seems to be flawless. Like, it's very rarely he'll get caught out by being in the wrong position, you know. Look at the save he made a couple of years ago, and it just hit him in the head there. I can't remember who it was against, but it was either a semi-final or a final. He was in the hill, and the ball's coming in from the Hogan stand. A shot from maybe 6 yards out, like, but position was just so perfect. Hit him in the helmet, went over the bar. Things like that. Like, Owen Murphy shots off and is obviously second to none, really. I think he's probably the best shot stopper in the country, hands down. Like, his reflexes are just on another planet. Like, so it's really impressive. Obviously, Aver and Nain as well. Like, they're 2 really good shot stoppers. The 2 very good distributors of the ball as well. They probably don't get the credit they really deserve. I think Aina has probably added another layer to his game this year, in particular for Galway, and they've become a lot more dynamic in their puck outs.
Can I just ask you, Sean, just about modern goalkeeping now? Even like I know of some goalkeeping coaches that actually don't do any puck outs within their goalkeeping coaching. It's all shot stopping and reactions and stuff like that. But like for an inter-county level, like, what's the percentage between, you know, shot stopping reflexes and actually practicing, let's say, puck outs and things like that in training? Like, I'd imagine it's probably close to 50-50, is it?
I'd probably lean more towards the puck outs. If you think of it, like, you're probably getting at least 30 puck outs a game on average, let's say. You might only face 2 shots a game, and you might only get 1 high ball in a game, something like that, you know. So you'd be surprised with the weight of it. Like, I know myself personally, I'd say I'm maybe 60% puck outs, and then maybe 30% split between the other 2 or something like that, or 20-20 or whatever the balance is. It depends on the week, and it depends on kind of who you're playing more so. You know, if you're playing against I don't know, Kilkenny, where they can rack up 4 or 5 goals and, you know, problem, like, you might do a bit more shot stopping, you might do a bit more maybe game-based defensive stuff. It's kind of dependent on the week you're facing into.
I'm not trying to get you in trouble here either as well, but how would you fare if you had a man behind the wire telling you where you should be putting the ball?
I don't know if I'd like it now. I don't know. Hurling's probably too reactive. Like, you know, by the time that message gets to you, there's a good chance that picture is fully changed already. Like, so look, it wouldn't be for me. I know there's a rumor that Dave and Billy Nolan were doing, but I don't think they did, to be honest. Like, myself personally, I don't see it working.
And John, like, in terms of like Conor Whelan this weekend, and that's the main man that Limerick are going to have to try and shut down. What's he like when he's playing in front of you? Because I'm sure, like, there's different forwards who stand out and their movement is unbelievable or whatever. But what's he like?
Yeah, no, he's really good. Like, he kind of hugs the end line nearly a lot of the time, like, especially within that full forward line. So they make it really obvious that they try to vacate a lot of space for him. And his movement, again, he's just so quick. He's so light-footed, you know. Like, if he gets that yard or 2 on you, like, he's very evasive. Like, so he'll get the slip. Like, I suppose I probably need to use him more, I think. You know, I know he's come to the fore in the last 2 games, like, but there's probably more that they can give into him to let him eat, so to speak.
Yeah, Mike.
Are you how important is communication for you? Are you a goalie that yaps and talks the whole time? And that's, like, to me, like, That's a
Did we
massive.
what?
It's obviously you are obviously. That's a like you can see the picture in front. You can like by you shouting, you know, to O'Donnell left, right, whatever. Like you can see everything. How are you constantly talking throughout the game?
Yeah, I'd say it's very, very rare now I'd be quiet at all on the pitch, to be honest. Like, but like the defense, if I can get a sound defensive structure in front of me, that makes my day so much easier. So it's in my interest, you know, to have everything as perfect as possible in front of you. Like you're never going to get it right all the time, but if someone's not coming in on me, the best day I can have as a goalkeeper is the day you don't even know I was on the pitch. So that's like a good day for me. So just you do the puck out, sail away quietly into the sunset, no saves, no shots on goal. Like that's a good day for me. So the defense in front of you obviously is a huge part of that.
You know the way, Sean, there's like different ways of striking the ball, obviously. And I remember a commentary on somebody maybe on the Sunday game a few years ago. They were talking about the way some goalkeepers kind of cut across the ball for their puck outs, which you definitely do. And it was almost like it was being criticised. I think it was being criticised. But in terms of how you strike the ball, is this something that you would have kind of adjusted over the years, or did you always just do it that way and it's just coincidence that this seems to be criticised?
I'm not sure why it would be criticised. You know, if you think of if you're cutting across the ball, you're taking a bit of the pace off it. So you're hitting a 50-yard ball to your wing back or something. Like, is he going to be able to comfortably control that ball? You know, so you have to think of these type of things. You're hitting him a pass at the end of the day. You're not just getting it from A to B as fast as you can. And so you have to kind of think about the receiver as well sometimes. So it's probably depending on how tight the gap is you're trying to squeeze. You're either going to go full at it or you're going to take a little bit off it, depending on what you need to hit.
Yeah, like over the years though, like your pockets would have improved. I remember when you first came on the scene, you were putting it either 10 yards over my head or bouncing right in front of me.
In fairness, yeah, it wouldn't have been hard to improve on that 2012 season there, Shane, to be honest. Like, I was only 17, give me a break, will you?
So, like, I know you obviously didn't work out against Clare and they put up a big score against you that day. I think, what was it, 5-26? So a lot of people would have said, why wasn't there a sweeper? I'm not looking for you to comment on the setup or what Micheál Donoghue did or whatever. But could you just talk to us about the threat that this Clare team has and what it's like when Tony Kelly is bearing down on goals and you're like, right, what sort of a chance am I here?
Well, as you probably saw on RTE last week, it's good crack when he's bearing 10 on goal anyway, that's for sure. Like, so yeah, look, it's sometimes a bit daunting when you see that probably one of the best forwards in the country just bearing down a goal. You're thinking like, oh no, how bad is he going to make me look here? You know, that type of way. So but look, it just shows you the fine margins of top level sport, though. You know, like Tony gambles to the back of the break, it just falls through perfectly for him 3 times, and he's straight through. Like, so there is an element of luck, and I suppose maybe that's a credit to his game management and reading of the game, that he's confident, or maybe the Clare guys have a subconscious agreement that they're just going to try and break it through for him running onto the back of it. You know, so. But look, he's a top class finisher, and he showed that last weekend or 2 weeks ago, whatever it was now.
What is it about Clare that makes them so effective, or that she found so effective that day?
I think what I was most surprised about is their ability to mix it up. You know, I was expecting a lot of, I'd say, the Diarmaid Ryan.
Has he stalled on us there for a second?
I think there's a high ball after going into the edge of the square.
That stalled there for a second, Sean. Go back and tell us again there what's so good about Clare.
Sorry, yeah. So I think the thing that surprised me was I don't think they're 5 and 7 scored from play. So Diarmaid Ryan would have probably gotten 3 or 4 points for a championship game so far. Might be open to correction on that, but I don't think they scored from inside their pockets. Like, they were delivering a lot more ball in. So they varied it up a lot, like, you know, and that's just probably they have the guys to do the damage as well when it does go in. You know, Mark Rogers probably scored nearly 1-2 in every game so far, has he? Shane O'Donnell scored 1-2 against us, and he's obviously a constant threat for them. So obviously Peter Duggan there as well for the route 1 out ball, and that's where they got their 3rd goal. I think it was a 1-on-1 high ball on top of Peter Duggan and Paddy Smith, and I think Tony came onto the break for that one, and that was their 3rd one.
I think so, yeah. And like, so how do you see that game going this weekend, Clare against Kilkenny, having played against both of them?
Yeah, I from a neutral point of view, I want a bit of a humdinger. Like, I don't know. I think there'd be a point in it. Like, I kind of have a feeling might be a draw after normal time. We might have to see an extra time. There's a huge part of me that wants penalties in one of the games just to see how it fares out. Obviously, with the football last week and got a couple of penalties, but I'd love to see it when the hurling game. So I think I don't know. I'm gonna go for a draw, and then I go Kilkenny an extra time on that one.
be honest, you want to be in a penalty shootout, don't you?
I
You're
would.
pretty good
I
at
would
saving
love
penalties.
nothing more than being in a penalty shootout, to be honest. Like,
Yeah, you wouldn't find that daunting at all, would you? Like, if the whole stadium is watching nothing but ye, and it's like 5 penalties each way. I presume you watched last week's penalty shootout between Armagh and
I
Monaghan.
did. Yeah. Well, like penalties for a goalkeeper are grand. Like, I mean, there's zero expectation on me to save that ball. All the pressure is on the shooter. I think hurling, obviously, with it being 21 yards out, and I think maybe get it to a certain degree. It's not like soccer where you have to guess because the goal is so big that unless you're going the right way, you haven't a hope. Like, so in games, like it's a bit of extra adrenaline. If you're going the right way, there's a chance that you're going to be very, very close to saving it. So I'll always wait and go the right way as opposed to guessing up like a.
Yeah, he's giving an edge there, Michael, isn't he? He's telling
Yeah.
people, he's telling the takers what he's going to do.
Yeah, but look, it makes sense, you know.
Yeah,
Just
Michael.
on that as well, Sean. Shots coming into you, I presume. Like you take a ball up around here every day of the week, then something fucking flying off the surface coming at you that you can't really react to. You see, even like Aaron Gallan 4 or 5 years ago was kind of kicking balls high and he was striking balls high. All of a sudden, he starts hitting balls into the ground, and every one of them is going into the net. I presume that's the sort of ball a keeper absolutely hates.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything bouncing maybe 4 yards in front of you with any kind of pace, you can only react once. You know, if that shot is coming from 8 yards out, you're only reacting to the ball, even the hurl. It's very hard then to go back and react to the ball hitting the ground a second time. So you've already reacted. It's very hard to go and react again. Like, so
Hadn't even thought of that. That's I
Yeah.
hadn't even thought of that. You're reacting twice almost.
you're reacting twice. Like, so look, it's easy to react once and your brain just takes over. But once the second one comes in, I think you look at the goals in the Gaelic grounds there. I know Alex Considine's one that took a wicked hop off the ground. I think the one of the ones in the Munster final that Limerick scored took a wicked hop off the ground. Like it's unpredictable, you know. Like most of the intercounty surfaces are perfect surfaces in fairness. Like, so you'd be relatively happy with the bounce you're going to get, but if there's any kind of a bobble, it hits the bobble. Like it looked like it should have been a save, but again, it's very, very hard to go and react a second time. Like,
What's the best save you've ever seen if you're taking that into context? Like, you know, I can't think of it. Who was it, Shane, the English soccer goalie back in the 70s that stopped that header from one of the Brazilian lads?
Gordon Banks?
Yeah, Gordon Banks. It was gone behind him. I think it might have hit the ground as well. But like, are you like great save, something up here, a lad flying and saving a top corner one? You're more impressed with something else, kind of a dribbly kind of a yoke that's going into the corner or something, maybe.
yeah, you like the pure struck shots are the easiest shots to save, even if they're up in the top corner. A little dribbler from 8 yards out, like forget about it, because your brain just like goes to mush, and it's like, oh my god, I don't know how to deal with this, because like you've so little time to react. I think there's a study done on baseball pitchers. There's something with a straight fastball they hit very consistently, but when they start coming curve and stuff like that into it, they just can't hit them, because like you only have such a minute reaction time that you're judging it when it leaves the hurl as opposed to anything in between. Like,
There's an interesting question here from Sully 180. I think Reece Shelley did this in the Fitzgibbon Cup earlier this year. Sean, would you ever swap the hurley to your left hand when a penalty taker is setting up to try and make him go the side you want, i.e. your backhand side?
I wouldn't personally. I know of a lot of lads that do it though. Yeah, I'd be afraid I wouldn't be able to re-switch quick enough, so I wouldn't do it for that reason.
What was the biggest thing for you in terms, and I know the answer myself, so hopefully you remember what it was, but in terms of shot stopping and making sure you're brave enough coming out to the ball and you're not worried about your body?
So what was the question? Sorry.
What's the sort of a big kind of thing that you did or advice you got in terms of like shot stopping and, you know, being, you know, not worried about taking a hit from the ball and just being able to dive straight at it, starfish?
Yeah, probably get a cup. Yeah. That helps a lot. Like, yeah.
Yeah, was it former Waterford goalkeeping coach Mark Cooney, who was with us with Kula for a while? Was it he that suggested that to you?
No, it actually wasn't him that suggested the cup. It was actually David Hardy suggested the cup to me. But obviously I've done a lot of work with Mark over the years. Like, yeah, look, it's especially when you're younger, it's very hard to just stand in front of that box. You know, you're about to enter a bit of world of pain there. So I think it's just something you have to kind of psychologically get around, and you know, practice with a load of tennis balls and practice just getting hit with tennis balls with no hurl or something like that, and build up your tolerance to it. Because in a match, it can only hurt for like 10 or 15 seconds, like, but it's the next day is when you feel it.
Yeah, so are you saying like with the cup, you were standing there and taking slaps while wearing a cup.
This
just
is
to
like
get used
this
to
is
it.
like Barton Millhouse in the sports shop, and he's just kicking him in the cup.
Yeah. Well, no, it just takes a little bit of psychological. Like if you're going to close down a 1-on-1, like, and there's a little bit of protection there. Like it makes it a little bit easier just to go in and take the pain. Got to protect the future.
There's a question here from GTalks 101. Who are your top 5 goalies of all time? Now, maybe it might be hard to think of 5 off the top of your head.
Go
but
with 3.
Yeah,
Go 3. All time. You have to remember my age here, so there might be a few lads hard done by here somewhere.
Shano, you come up with your 3 as well. I'll come up with mine. We'll see what the generational difference is here. But it'll be interesting to hear your 3, Sean.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go Stephen O'Keefe, Owen Murphy, and I go Brendan Cummins.
Very good.
But why, Sean?
Why? I hear you're throwing under the bus now.
Nicky Quaid not mentioned there.
Come on, I can only pick 3. I wanted to give the old lads one thing, like, something of your vintage, Shane. Like, yeah, Stephen O'Keefe is probably someone that I would have modelled my game on. So he has to go in there for me. Like that kind of a sweeper keeper type of role is something that I aspire to kind of bring into my game. So look, he's in there for me. Look, if you were to ask me who I'd pick between Quaid and Murphy, I'm just gonna go with Murphy. I don't know. I have just some bias towards him that I love watching him play for whatever. He's just a shot stopper or something like that. I can't even give you a really good reason as to why I'd pick him. I just pick him over the other. Then Brendan Cummins is probably the guy I watched as a kid growing up more so than anything else. I suppose watching him for Tip back in the day, like obviously my granddad has a bit of Tip connection to him, so I would have probably been more of a Tip fan than a Dublin fan nearly when I was at kind of 8, 9, 10 years of age. So he would have been the guy I was watching.
Yeah, who's yours, Verney?
Well, Damien Fitzhenry would be number 1 anyway. I thought he was unbelievable. Shot stopping, puck outs when they gave him the responsibility to actually hit grass, something like that, he was able to do it brilliantly. He'd probably be one. We the golden generation growing up, Shano, when you think about it, with Fitzhenry, Cummins, Davy, Cusack. I'd probably have Cummins too. And it's funny, Andrew Sullivan there from my own club put in a suggestion. Brian Mullins, that played with Offaly, and I played with Burr for 15 years or so. I'd probably have him in number 3. It's funny, he actually, you were saying about tennis balls and stuff, Sean, he'd have often be down training, just be tennis balls being bet at him left, right and centre, and you're just taking hops and stuff like that. He actually plays tennis as well to help with his reactions. Right. He'd probably be number 3, I'd say. Yeah, he pulled off the best save I've ever seen in Crow Park in 04 maybe. Offaly Tip All-Ireland quarter final. The bouncy ball was in at the time, the bouncy O'Neills, and Conor Gleeson, I think, was still playing. He hit one going top corner. Do you remember that ball that went way faster than the normal O'Neills? It was a joke. Remember Cummins pulled off the saves against Kilkenny. The ball kept bouncing back out to the 21. The ball was in that time. It was going top corner, and he stopped it. I don't know how he stopped it. It's probably the best save I've ever seen. So they're my 3: Fitzhenry, Cummins, and Brian Mullins.
So I'll go with lads I watched growing up, 1977.
No one's skiing.
Ollie Walsh in 65. It'd have to be Cummins anyway. He'd definitely be in the mix. I think Nicky Quaid, she's just so solid. His puck out, like for a few years there, like he was just turning the screw on Tipperary and other teams in Munster. So I'd say him. And then the third one, I'll give it to Sean for the crack.
You're such a licker, Shane. Like
that's bad now. That is
bad. You can do better than that now. Come on.
Please, Sean, will you come on to the show again? Thank you.
It was obviously an ironic pick. Sean is pretty deadly, yeah. Who would be my third one? Yeah, Fitzhenry as well. Cummins, Fitzhenry, and who was the other one I said? Nicky Quaid. Yeah, I think he's be brilliant. What else do we want to touch on? Kieran Carey has confirmed that he's after sleeping in. So,
Kieran. He's getting ready for the weekend.
Sean, do you think Galway have a chance of upsetting Limerick this weekend?
I'd say potentially, yeah. They'll take great confidence over that win against Tip there 2 weeks ago. And look, it was a close game last year. Obviously Limerick are down maybe a couple of bodies on that as well. So there's no reason for them to go in and fear them. I even think if like Galway come back from some kind of large deficits this year, so that'll give them huge comfort as well. Like if Limerick get a really fast start and go 6 or 7 up, like Galway won't panic. Like they just stick in there, they keep chipping away, and look, there's very good opportunity there for them to go and do a job.
Is there any players in particular in that Galway team? We've already mentioned Conor Whelan, of course, but like, are there any players in that Galway team that you reckon, these lads could be a big threat this weekend?
Yeah, obviously Cathal Mannion is probably someone you have to earmark there straight away. Like I think he got a ridiculous amount of possessions. I can't remember the figure, but again in that Galway game last week was this 34 possessions maybe, or was it higher than that or lower than that? I can't remember, but like he's there, he's calling the shots back there for them. Like so, I don't know what Limerick's solution. I don't think the Munster teams tend to do any kind of man marking jobs really, do they? They just kind of hope they get lost in the system somewhere. So I don't know. Like yeah, obviously he'll call the shots. Like. Obviously, look, Sean Brennan came in the last day. He's had a really good influence. He came on against us. He kind of marked Danny and put a bit of banners on him. So, like, that's another kind of dimension they brought to their game.
Who would you think he would pick up, Sean, actually? Because he tied Noel McGrath down the last day as well. Like, would he go after... We were only talking about it off air. With Hannon out, Dara Donovan's distribution is probably more important than ever, and he's probably having a brilliant season. Would he maybe try to nullify him, maybe?
No, to be honest now, I didn't actually watch the Galway Tip game. So did he play midfield or did he?
Yeah, he was basically
midfield on Noel.
McGrath, yeah.
Right, yeah. So he played wing back against us. So I'm not sure. Like I don't know. Like would you put him on our Hegarty or something like that? Like I don't know. Would you keep Fintan Burke on Hegarty, or would you put something like a Sean and Nan on him? Maybe I'm not sure. Like.
That's an interesting one about Fintan Burke as well. He obviously kept Hegarty as quiet as anybody has ever kept him in last year's All-Ireland semi-final. He had a tough time in the Leinster final on Big Wally when he came in. He didn't start then the last day. Like, do you bring him in for a specific man-marking job, or do you kind of go with what's maybe been going well so far this year?
Yeah, I don't know. Like he's a very big player to leave out though at the same time, and obviously Henry was brave enough having not started him the last day, so. Yeah, look, Jesus. I'm glad I'm not the one having to make that decision anyway. So it's tough.
Galway seem to be a team that don't give up, though. I mean, you look at some of their games this year. They came from behind at Nolan Park, came from behind against Kilkenny at Croke Park. You were 12 points up, with the Dublin team, 12 points up on them. They don't give up.
No, they don't, and that's like it's mad nearly. The ability they have just to keep plugging away. Like there was no sense of panic on the pitch. Like even in Croke Park that day playing against them, they fully just pushed up, and they just got a real stranglehold of us. But even when it got down to the melting pot, then when I think they went 1 up at one stage and we clawed it back then to go level. Like, but they just keep tipping away. Like nothing really changes. There's no panic. It's just stick to the process. I know it's a real cliche, like, but they just literally stuck to task and just chipped a couple of points over. Obviously, they got the goal then or whatever, gave them a bit of a momentum boost, but now they just keep plugging away.
And this year, like, of course, with Micheál Donoghue taking over, and there was the exodus of lads down to Australia, Liam Rush, Chris Crummy, Keane O'Callaghan, Rian McBride isn't there, so on and so forth. Like, what sort of a season were you expecting? And look, if you leave out the result the last day, obviously its scoreline got away from me. There was some positives from the season, but what were you expecting, and what has it been like with Donoghue and Franny Larkin and so on?
Yeah, the lads are excellent now. In fairness, like the management team was really, really good this year now. So, look, we were going like you're never not expecting to win games. Like you're always expecting to win. Like even if historically it's not going your way, you've just kind of a pig ignorance that you think you're going to go out and win. Like so, and that was never really an issue. I think a lot of our youth has blended in incredibly well this year. There's a lot of year one guys like Paddy Doyle, Mark Rogan. Anyone else? Let's get one. Conor Donoghue as well. Yeah, well, he came on last year, so he's not.
Yeah, Dara Powers in there.
But Dara Powers in there. Console, like, so there's a lot of guys that for their first proper inter-county season with a starting jersey have done phenomenally well. Like, and they're only going to get better. So, like, there's a lot to be positive about.
And what's Micheál like in the dressing room? Is he fire and brimstone?
Depends on what we need, I suppose. Yeah. He's very good at it. He's very balanced. Like he's a very balanced guy. Like he knows when to put the arm on the shoulder, and he knows when to give you a kick up the arse. Like so, yeah.
Michael.
Sorry, no, I'm putting you on the spot here, but I had to remind myself of the Dublin Senior Hurling Championships draw for 2023. Big game coming up here. Like, surely you're looking forward to getting the chance to put Saint and the Whitehall supremacists back in their box.
I saw he was re-togged out for Coola there last night. Has
There
anyone
you
ever
go.
played for
Do you
Coola?
know what that is? There's
Yeah.
no coincidence that he was back
No,
there. Just trying
that's-
to fish around,
There's
get a bit of information.
snake in the
nose
grass
around.
here somewhere, isn't there? Like, haven't seen him in 4 years at Coola now. All of a sudden he's back training, huh? Something's going on here, Shane.
Well, no, the third team, they were just in a bit of a bind. Relegation match against Skerries Harps last night. And actually, the manager didn't tell me it was up in Skerries, which is basically in the North Pole, until after I had said, yeah, sure, I'll play it. Then up Skerries. Oh,
Well, look, we're keeping you as far away from Shankill as possible for the next 5 weeks or whatever it is. Like,
Sean,
Yeah.
I was chatting him off air, and it was like one of the two Johnny's sketches. How'd you go on last night? Oh, I caught 9 puckouts. I think I said up to 8.
fuck off, you did, yeah. Like,
Yeah, does that sound like something I'd say, Sean?
no,
You know
I'd say you
I'm
barely left the centre circle, I'd say.
I was on the 14 and I didn't move out of it. And if
Yeah,
I came out for a second, I was like, get me back in there.
Get me back in here. Huffing and puffing, I'd say, were you?
Yeah. A lot of these modern goalies are playing outfield for their clubs. Sean, are you going to start playing as an outfielder yet or what?
I'm going full forward just for the White Hog game. Put me on O'Donnell.
Yeah, that doesn't work out well for you.
Yeah,
Were you always the keeper, Sean? Or did you switch at some stage?
Probably after Fail, I would have went in goal, yeah. So under 15 would have been my first proper year in, I'd say, yeah.
Any
So
particular reason? Did you like playing outfield, or did you just kind of...
I liked it.
Goals?
No, I like playing outfield. I was probably warming the bench a bit too much for my liking, though. So there was an opportunity. I think our keeper broke his arm that season going into that under 15 games. So there's a gap there. So I said, look, I'll go in, and at least I'd be guaranteed a bit of game time. So it's worked out all right.
Lonely place at times, though, too, I'd imagine. Like, you'd have to be... I think, as regards being mentally tough, the keeper has to be probably the mentally toughest player on the pitch. You can obviously see everything that's going on, but you're there by yourself. You're not marking anybody. You have to keep switched on the whole time. I'd imagine it's demanding enough too.
Yeah, it's very mentally draining. Like, the lads be slagging me when I say I'm tired after a game. They're like, you're only just standing there or whatever. Like, but yeah, you're mentally clocked in for 75 minutes, like, which is, it's hard. Like, it gets very tough. Like, but look, it's part of the fun, really, isn't it? Like,
what player do you least like bearing down on goal at you?
Tony Kelly.
Recency bias.
Yeah.
And a final question then, Sean. Who's going to win the All-Ireland?
Who's going to win the All-Ireland? Oh, I don't know. I'd like to, not that I've anything against it, but I'd like to see Limerick not win it anyway, just to break the duck there. I think, I don't know. Kilkenny might be my dark horse.
Okay. Well, with someone with a Tipperary background, I'm not like you have a Tipperary background, so hearing you say that, I'm not too pleased with that.
I know, but look, sure, someone has to do it.
Yeah. All right, Sean. Thanks very much for joining us. I'll chat to you later on. We'll abuse each other.
Yeah. Cheers, guys. All the best.
Sean.
Thanks very much.
Thanks a minute.
Bye.
Okay, so there's plenty more still to talk about in terms of some of the matchups in these games here. And like we were chatting beforehand about what might happen between Limerick and Galway, who'll pick up who. So Conor Whelan, and I mean, a lot of this comes down to what way do Limerick address the centre-back situation. Like Dan Morrissey, well, Mike Casey is probably the most likely to pick up Whelan. You'd imagine Sean Finn would have done it, but obviously, look, he's not there. Richie English, who knows, he may come into the team if Dan Morrissey goes out to centre-back. Would Dan Morrissey even pick him up? And then hopefully, if, like from a Limerick point of view, they keep their shape and it's more 50-50 high ball going in between them rather than ball into the corner, or what Cathal Barrett was up against the last day in 50 yards of space, +1 a bit away from them. So what way do you think that Galway will look to exploit Limerick?
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see where Henry puts Whelan, to think, like, you know, you'd have to say probably having him out around centre forward on a guy who... Has Dan Morrissey ever started a championship game centre back for Limerick? Probably not. It is going to be a new experience. I know he's played there a bit, and then it's also the one, like, is he gonna? He's not going to follow him either. So I think I'd probably have him out around there. I'd probably have him in around the edge of the square too, though. Particularly if Mike Casey goes full back, that means probably Richie English is going to come in. When was the last championship game that Richie English started for Limerick? I can't think of it off the top of my head. So I'd imagine that if he does play, that they'd potentially go after him as well. The worrying thing from a Limerick point of view is if English does start, if Dan Morrissey goes to 6, just say someone picks up a knock, then you're going really deep into your reserves. Then you're going into Aaron Costello, Colin Coughlin. They probably don't have, it's in the full back line where they don't have a lot of maybe versatility as regards numbers wise. And it is still a specialist spot. But I would expect Whelan to be out around half hour. They won't want him they won't want the ability for him to be tied down. I'll put it to you that way. They will want him out there in space. And then I would, particularly if he's going well, you could easily put him into the edge of the square at different times as well if he's getting on lots of ball. But it's key for Galway that they get Whelan on the ball. Even if there's a couple of early wides or something like that, he has to be on the ball. Galway will not win this game unless Conor Whelan scores 4 points plus, 3 points plus anyway. I'd say he has to be in the game. And I think most of their forward plan will be built around getting him on the ball, getting him as influential as he's been in the last 2 games.
Yeah, Detox 101 says, Verney, whenever the last training game was 15 and 15, that's when, I presume he's talking about Richie English.
Yeah.
Vinny O'Brien says, a mentally fresh Limerick side will destroy an overrated Galway side. Peg Leg Lonergan says, destroy no, win yes.
I think that is fascinating. The 4 weeks, they've negotiated the 4 weeks really well. I think it was 2019 maybe when Kilkenny, I don't even think Kilkenny stunned them for the whole game. They stunned them in the first 15 minutes in 2019. I think they were 1-6 to a point up and they just couldn't, they were chipping. They just couldn't get there. Probably should have had 65 to draw the game. There's no point in saying any different. But they've negotiated that gap really, really well. And any staleness that might have been there. Imagine the euphoria of winning the Munster and then getting probably a week off and then coming again and knowing we're through the front door here. We have the easiest passage. We just need to get ourselves mentally and physically fresh again. So I do expect Limerick to be very, very fresh. They're not, people will talk, you chat to anybody in Galway who was involved in 2018 and they ended up going to a Leinster final replay. And they ended up going to an All-Ireland semi-final replay. And by the time they fell into the All-Ireland final, they were goosed nearly. And it was 15 minutes at the end of the All-Ireland that nearly won it back for them. But Limerick don't have that. They have the injuries, all right. But there should be a freshness coming into this game. There should be a bounce coming into this game. And I would be expecting them to be up another, as John Kiley would say, I would be expecting incremental improvement. I would expect another 5 or 10% from Limerick.
So, the one player that I'm wondering, when are we going to get a huge performance from him this year, is Brian Kincannon. And of course, he got that goal last year in the All-Ireland semi-final that re-energised Galway's chances against Limerick. He has to have a big game. It'll be very interesting to see if Keenan Fahy remains at centre forward. I think he certainly will. But will Conor Cooney also get a place back into the starting team? Because they probably need him scoring as well. And, last year it didn't really work out for him against Limerick either. But they need a day where Conor Whelan, Brian Kincannon, maybe even Evan Nyland snipes 3 or 4 from play, especially if Limerick go with more of an attack-minded 6, that it should present more opportunities for him rather than somebody who's overly worried about trying to tie him down. So, if you go back to that 2019 game that you talked about when Kilkenny beat Limerick, one of the big things is obviously the ferocity with which Kilkenny hit them at the start. And to me, it seemed like Limerick were scrambled for the entire game. They were making errors that they don't normally make. Like any time that Limerick have been rattled, it's been because a team has sewed it into them for the first 15 minutes. And I know people talk about, was it Waterford in 2021 that they went so hard for the first 20 minutes that they just hit a wall or whatever. And whatever about that being entirely true or not, Tipperary in 2021, the Munster final, you could say again they hit a wall. But in terms of trying to rattle their cages, you do need to rattle their cage early, trying to get ahead and maybe just stick with them for the rest of the game.
When was the last time you saw an underdog winning a game against a heavy favourite and them not starting well? They just can't be 4 or 5 down. They're going to have to start. They're going to have to start as they mean to go on, realistically. You're saying about Conor Cooney there. I definitely wouldn't be starting Conor Cooney with the news that Jason Flynn is out. Flynn is out with a hamstring injury by all accounts. They're going to need 15 lads to go to war for an hour, and they're going to need 5 to come in to make an impact. And in fairness, Conor Cooney got in a couple of balls when he came in the last day. Wouldn't be that surprised if Brian Kincannon is kept in reserve as well. Like if he has a huge 25 minutes, if he's a massive 25 minutes when he comes in, that could be enough. But they're going to need that hop. Eddie Brennan was only saying there last week that Galway got everything right against Limerick in last year's All-Ireland semi-final. Basically, they kept Hegarty quiet. They kept a lot of the big names quiet. And then it's like they didn't know what to do when David Reedy came in. It's like maybe we didn't plan for him. Maybe we planned to keep Hegarty quiet, and Reedy comes in and wins the game. That's what Galway are going to need. They're going to need those 2 or 3 lads coming in that can turn a game. Can they afford to keep come on it in reserve? I'm not sure. They're going to have to. It's going to have to be a bit of a balancing act, but they're going to need at least 3 lads that can come in and contribute probably on the scoreboard.
But they're going to need to make sure that Tom Monaghan, who will always score 2 or 3 points, isn't taking pot shots from the wrong place. And if you go back to last year's semi-final, when David Reedy, as you rightly said, he came on and he made the difference. But Evan Nyland had a handy one for him around midfield, on his own, on his good side, put it wide. I can't remember who exactly it was, but some other player was soloing down the right wing, and they had a shot that went wide as well. It was a low percentage shot. So you have to keep that composure towards the end of the game and give... And look, it's very easy saying it here that you need to give the extra pass and be cool and all that. But like if you're 70 minutes into a game and you've been chased by this horde of green machines for, that period of time, it's very hard to keep your composure. But to get across the line against a team that's used to winning tight games when it comes down to the very bitter end, that's probably what you're just going to need to have.
Yeah, a lot of time, I was only chatting Brendan Cummins yesterday or the day before about this, because I was just doing something about potentially the end of a dynasty coming. If Limerick are beaten at the weekend, and obviously Tipperary ended to 5 in a row in 2010, and he was just saying, like, yeah, it's the second or third time I've said it, to be fair, in this show, but he's just saying, you're not actually physically, you're physically tired, all right, at the end of a game, but you start mentally, your mental fatigue plays into a bit of physical fatigue. You start taking maybe lazy shots or taking the wrong option from 80 or 90 yards. It's the one word he just kept coming back to was precision. You just need to have that precision. And even the lads coming on, they need to have that precision, because Limerick will, and he broke it down into very exact science. He just said, Limerick will keep putting the ball over the bar where at the end, and they still have that precision in the 77th minute, whereas other teams, whether it's a bit of white line fever or it's a bit of, oh my God, we can win this game. And when you start thinking too much about it, when you're on autopilot and you're in, to say about being in the zone, you're actually not thinking about whatever. You play snooker as I do. You're on a break and you're just playing 5 or 6 shots. The odd time I made a 50 something one time, and I never thought once about any one shot I was playing. And someone, Andrew Sullivan it was, he said to me, "Oh, you're on 50, whatever. What happened? Missed the next shot. Talk too much about it." It's like the Galway lads on Saturday evening need to be like, it just needs to be relentless. There needs to be no thought put into it almost. It needs to be autopilot, just going and going and going and going, and not thinking about, oh, we can slay the beast here. You know what I mean? The time to think about that is when it's done. And that's a very difficult thing to do, because Limerick are kind of playing rent-free inside people's heads in the last 10 minutes of games, because they're coming. And it's almost like they will come, but that also takes like a 10% off you, because you're like fearing and you're expecting them to come. Whereas teams just need to, I suppose, concentrate on themselves and just make sure that they see it out to the finish as best possible. But it's an awful lot easier said than done, unfortunately.
Yeah, I can't help but think when you're talking about the snooker thing and the composure that, like, sometimes you'd be on a little bit of a break, and obviously, look, we're not talking about massive breaks here at the level we're playing at, but you can sort of see, okay, I've got a grand handy shot here, and I can see the balls are lining up nicely. The red pack is split for me. If I in any way keep it together here, there's points to be had, and then that's when you just miss the handy one. Or
we call it the snare.
Yeah,
because if you don't make that one shot, everything else is irrelevant.
It says, Detox says, lads, what's happening about the snooker game? And we in the year of Tip v Offaly. Verney here, it's your chance to get back. We still have to do that.
Yeah, no, we'll definitely do it in the winter time. We'll raise a few quid for a charity as well.
Sully180 says, I'd like to clarify, Verney asked me what he was on. I didn't say it as gamesmanship.
Yeah, he's probably right. And that was the first time in the break that I got in my own head. And that can happen easily. Cummins said as well, and he said it's something that you can't prepare for. He said in 2009, I was looking at the lads coming around in the high-vis jackets, and I was thinking, oh my God, like, we could win this game. That's what he actually said. He thought that. And it's just like, Galway were in a similar position the other day. You nearly have to be oblivious to everything that's going on and just totally, as I said, maybe it's a bit cliched or whatever, but to be in the zone. Nothing else matters, only the next ball, the next score. You've been in games as well where you're looking at the time, or you're looking at the score, and you're wishing the finishing line. And when you wish for the finishing line, you are in big trouble.
Yeah, I heard about when Tipperary 2010 were having their pre-match talk or a chat at some point ahead of the All-Ireland final, that maybe it was Paul Kern was like saying, lads, with 5 minutes to go against Kilkenny, or maybe before the red card, I was looking up and thinking, right, we have a right good chance to win this. But you can't be thinking that at all, and that you need to just, keep going no matter what. By the way,
that's why Owen Kelly was going around doing this. One of the most annoying things of all time. And every time the match is played is this. And you have Liam Sheedy doing that finger kind of wag at the end as well. But that's kind of what Kelly was doing. It was like, we've scored a goal, but it doesn't matter. Next ball, let's hammer the hammer while we can.
Do you know you can get that thing as a gift on WhatsApp? I'll send it on to you there.
Thanks. I'm glad that will really brighten up my day.
So just so people know, if they're not already aware, Galway versus Limerick, that'll be refereed by James Owens this weekend, and the other game between Clare and Kilkenny will be refereed by Colm Lyons. So we'll see how that impacts the two games. Obviously, lots of people have their opinions on the different referees. And you do have to know how to play the referee.
You do. I'm hoping the door is open for John Keenan to get the All-Ireland and sail away into the sunset now. I believe Paul O'Dwyer is retiring as well, and he'll be in the mix. Retiring or being forced to retire because of an ageist GA rule where you can't referee inter-county level beyond the age of 50, which is absolutely bonkers. Even if you look at the retirement age for work has gone up to is it 68 now or something like that now? I can't believe this is still a thing in the GAA.
If you're fit enough, why not?
Nah, it's Tony Brown said hurling intercounty till you're 41. There are outliers to every rule. I think it's absolutely bonkers. In an era where we are struggling for top level referees, we're going to let some of the best exit. I think that's a rule or something that needs to go to Congress. I think it's mad.
Yeah, just a couple of other matchups that we could be looking at here. Who'll pick up Aaron Gallan? And I was thinking initially maybe Darren Morrissey, because he's relatively quick across the floor. He's decent in the air, even though he's not overly huge sort of a guy. Because I don't think they'll bring Dahi Burke out of 6 back to mark him. Last year they started with Cathal Mannion kind of as a sweeper, and because Limerick had that extra +1 further back the field, they were able to move it up through the lines and bypass Cathal Mannion. So I don't think Galway will go with a +1. I think lesson learned on that.
You don't think Cathal Mannion will play a similar type role that he did against Tip?
Not quite to that same level, because I don't think sweepers work against Limerick because they're too clever on the ball.
They definitely will not make a hero of him anyway. So I think you could be right. He might be there at stages now.
Well, I think that there'll always be I agree. He'll always have an eye on the back door. But I think they're not going to bring Dahi Burke back there. Maybe they will. Gerard McInerney, I'm not sure he's the right matchup. If there's obviously 50-50 high ball going in, fine. But I think if ball is popped in front of Aaron Gallan with the feet he has, I think most people are going to be in trouble, especially if you're 6'4". I mean, that's no criticism of Gerard McInerney, but he's probably 16 stone or more, maybe 17 stone. And Gallan,
he's not that big, is he?
Well, he's 6'4". He's not, and I'm saying it's all monstrous muscle here.
I'd say he's no more than 15 stone. Genuinely now, he's lean now.
I'd be absolutely look. Anyway, we won't argue the toss over that.
I'll text Jerry McInerney when we get off the call. And,
what's the there? Trying to settle a bet there, but I think Pádraig Mannion could end up full back on him. The reason being, if you look at the last game against Dublin in the round robin, he was put back full back on Donald Burke. If you looked into the Leinster final, he was put in the full back line against Owen Cody. Now, I know he didn't play there against Tipperary, but there are some players that you absolutely just have to nail down. So I think it could be Pádraig Mannion. And you know what? It's probably as good a matchup as I have. But of course, that means maybe you'll have a smaller man going out on Tom Morrissey. So there's, it's tough for Henry Shefflin here to really balance this out.
Yeah, I think you're taking away such an important weapon at wing back. The deliveries Mannion gives inside, how cool he is on the ball, the ability to score from distance.
Hey, I always think, what if you threw Gerard McInerney out in the half back line? And I don't know, does he have quite the same level of legs anymore because he's a lot of miles on the clock? But on puck outs anyway, he's going to be able to compete with Hegarty, who I know you're looking at Fintan Burke, but potentially there's a matchup that would make some level of sense.
I think you need strikers in your half back line. I think you need a Dermot Burns that can open the shoulders and give a 100-yard ball in. I'm not sure if McInerney is that. It's a difficult one because McInerney came off against Tipperary and was under a bit of pressure and was probably at fault for the goal. So that would be why I'd be leaning towards, if he was on top of his game, would they put Mongalan? Maybe, but probably not now. As well as that, if he's not on top of his game, would you move him out wing back? I'm not so sure. But you mentioned Darren Morrissey off air. I can't remember if you said it on air. But that's probably someone who's in, player who's in good form, good in the air, nullified TJ. I remember when he marked him a couple of years ago, or did well on him in the air anyway. And maybe Galway look at trying something different. They have plenty of options if Galan is causing them trouble, and I don't think they'll be waiting 50 minutes to make a change. If Galan is going to town, they could potentially move Grealish on him. They could potentially move Dottie Burke back on him. They could potentially put Pádraig Mannion on him. They have plenty of options. It's going to be interesting to see which one they go at. I don't think they'll go at Mannion from the off, though, because I just think it robs them of a really important weapon. Particularly when you're playing Limerick, you need to have lads that can play with precision from the back. And he's probably one of their most precise defenders. Like he'll tread passes. No, absolutely no problem. If you're
Robin Peter to pay Pádraig.
Oh, I like it. So that would be my one kind of worry in that regard. From a Limerick point of view, then, like, does Graham Mulcahy start again, as he did in the Munster final? Does David Reedy start again? If Peter Casey's fit, to me, he starts every day of the week. But if and I'm not sure why he didn't start the Munster final. He obviously made a good impact when he came in, and he was one of the ones that was back getting in big tackles and whatever. But maybe they feel like with Finn missing and with Hannah missing, that they really need a kick off the bench and they need a really experienced player to come in. They're juggling around, they're moving pieces for a 75-minute game, not for a 60-minute game, if you get me. And one thing is for sure, Limerick will leave a kick, and they will leave a couple of players that can give them a big kick off the bench.
PWell74 says, if Cian Lynch is playing and going well, then all Galway's plans will be up in the air. But I mean, that's yet another, at this stage, an unknown. We don't know if he's going well. We all know when he's on form and fit, he's probably the best player in the country. There's a couple of other lads you could put in there. So obviously, we're all absolutely in agreement on that. Detox 101 says, if you were picking the all-star centre-back right now, who would it be? That's a tough one. Like, you go through some of the options. John Conlon, obviously, with Clare, has been very good.
High up there.
Yeah. With Kilkenny, it's been kind of a movable feast. So I just think it would be difficult to pick who would even be their representative. Dahi Burke's been pretty good for Galway at times. Obviously came up and got that goal against Dublin, which was quite a big one. Conor Burke, good for Dublin. Obviously, I don't think he'd quite be in the top of that conversation. Outside of that, who would you
Conlon probably is up there, I'd say. He's probably number one.
Kieran Joyce had quite a good season for Cork.
Yeah, but he's not going to be in the equation realistically. That's it's a very good question, because usually, like, it's your centre back is your kind of your hub player, your most important player, everything built around him. And you look at Kilkenny, you couldn't say for certain who's going to play 6 at the weekend. Clare, Colin, I believe, is going to be fit from everything I'm hearing, but you couldn't be for certain he's going to play centre back. You just Hannon's not playing centre back. Do you know what I mean? There's a lot of flux in the most important spot in the field. Dottie Burke is playing centre back, obviously, but he's a rookie centre back at intercounty level as well. Do you know? So I probably have Conlon number one, I'd say, at the moment. I think it's coming towards the time where we're going to have to put our head on the block and call who's going to be in the All-Ireland final.
I don't mind that. Let's drag it out a little bit longer. Okay, right. So just quickly to go through Clare here. Like, what do they do if Conlon isn't right? So let's say they start him and he's not right, and they take him off after 10 minutes. And David McInerney, we're going to assume that he's fit. We're going to assume that Aidan McCarthy's fit. And we're going to assume that Conor Cleary isn't. So I think they've no choice but to put David McInerney full back. And I think they've no choice but to put Aidan McInerney in the half-back line. And I know you could put in Darragh Lohan.
Aidan McCarthy in the half-back line.
What did I say?
Aidan McInerney.
Anyway, look, I put Aidan McCarthy somewhere in the half-back line. And I know you're rejigging things, but sometimes you have to look at what Kilkenny have. And what will Kilkenny do this weekend? We're going to load up the full forward line with lads who can catch the ball. And David McInerney, you know, say what you like about him taking shots from 100 yards, but like he's some man to compete for a high ball. He's very athletic. I think he'd be able to deal with the amount of ball going in. Will he catch every ball? Maybe not against all those Kilkenny lads because they're brilliant in the air. But I put him back there. I put Aidan McCarthy in the half backline because I don't think you can afford to have a backline that has, and they're all good players, Adam Hogan, Rory Hayes, Shane Amori, and maybe somebody else that's not going to be able to compete quite as well physically in the air with these Kilkenny.
Yeah, Darragh Lohan's going to start from everything I'm hearing.
Yeah.
And like he started his first championship game the last day, and he's physical and he's strong, but
he had a tough time against Danny Sutcliffe.
Yeah, if Danny put the ball over the bar, he probably would have been man of the match, even though he was on the losing side. So there's potential for him to be a bit of a fish out of water in this kind of a massive game. Kilkenny, the one thing is for sure, Kilkenny are going to go after them in the full back line. If McInerney is fit, yeah, I don't know. It doesn't look like he's going to move him back to 3 because he would have moved them back to 3 for the Munster final, I'd imagine. But maybe the fact that Cian Nolan had a tough time, maybe they'll realise now they need to move him back to 3. But it's somewhere he hasn't played in. Like, has he played there under Brian Lohan? Has he always been wing back, centre back ish under Brian Lohan?
As far as I can think, yeah. But he's always had Conor Cleary available. Isn't this the first season that Conor Cleary, like, he's one of those lads you nearly take it for granted he'll be starting, but as far as I can remember, this is the first time that he's been out for any significant length of time.
Yeah, no, I think so, yeah. And it's, again, as I think it was Tommy Guilfoyle said the week before, you kind of only realising just how big of a loss he is now and just how solid he is there. You don't know what you got till it's gone. That's it, really. And he's not really spectacular or anything like that. He's not going to drive balls 100 yards. He's not maybe going to go up and make big catches or anything like that. But he's so solid and he can generally tie down one of the best forwards on the opposition team. And his absence leaves a big hole. If he is fit to play at the weekend, do you put him in, having not played for 7 weeks? Janie Mack, in All-Ireland semi-final in Croke Park? I just don't think he could do it, to be honest with you.
And like, if you're up against Kilkenny and you know that, like, Hugh Lawler's brilliant. Like, he's as things stand, he's right up there as the best fullback in the country. There's a couple of others that are in that conversation, but like, he's playing unbelievably well. Tommy Walsh is back there, very good player. Mikey Butler, obviously, heel man mark, Tony Kelly. But I wonder, do you look at saying, like, he obviously has a big fancy for Peter Duggan, who does a lot of good things.
A big fancy.
But if you said that about a horse, you wouldn't. I'm feeling sweet on Red Rum this weekend.
Yeah, well, that's a little bit different. It's an animal, but go on anyway.
So, would you be looking at thinking, let's load up the full forward line ourselves? And even though we know Hugh Lawler loves a high ball, you're probably going to be starting Peter Duggan no matter what. But like last year, the way Clare ended up panicking, they ended up driving high ball on top of Ian Galvin and so on and so forth. Let's start Aaron Shanahan and load in high ball on top of them that way. Yeah,
potentially. Well, like we're saying Kilkenny are going to do it. What are Clare going to do? Yeah, and potentially that could be it. And Shanahan's in good form as well. He just generally doesn't start games for Clare. He comes in and makes an impact. So we're all... The only thing I'd say is as well, sometimes when a tactic is well flagged, Kilkenny are going to go after the Clare full back line. Sometimes it just doesn't work out like that, or the ball coming in is just aimless and it's not a good diagonal ball. It's just a ball horse down that, you know, a defender just needs to jump all over the forward and break it or whatever. Maybe it's too obvious a tactic. Maybe it's something that they've been really, really honing in on the last couple of weeks. But just with the size profile of the Clare full back line, you'd imagine it's something. One of Kilkenny's strengths is high ball. So you'd imagine to go after. But as you say there, Duggan's brilliant under a high ball. Shanahan's brilliant under a high ball. Maybe they'll try and create a mismatch of some kind in that full back line. Colm Lyons blind spot thinks Galway are going to win by 8. Limerick missing too many men, surely. The Empire will fall at some stage. It's just going to be so fascinating to see if it's Saturday night. I don't think it will be. I think Limerick will win by 3 or 4 in the wind-up, and I just think they'll be refreshed after Munster. That's with the proviso that they don't pick up a big injury, particularly in defence. If they pick up a big injury in defence, all bets are probably off.
Yeah, I think Limerick will win as well, and somehow they'll tell us they were written off, even though we're both going well.
But I think John Kiley has kind of almost created this in a way. And
I think managements do this in general. They try and create a siege mentality.
JJ Delaney said it last week's show. He said that, you know, individuals, sometimes they need that. They need that bit of criticism or whatever. And criticism is what they're taking as Limerick are missing a good few players. You know, how will they react? They're taking that, or as us saying, Limerick are missing a few players, they're finished. Do you know what I mean? Like, as we've seen with comments made on this show, which were taken totally out of context before to be used as motivation for various teams to win county titles around the country. That's the way of the world. You're the same with Whitehall. If someone's on a podcast and they're saying that Stapleton lad is an ape and he's over Whitehall and they're going to get hammered, you'll nail it to the wall of the dressing room. You'll use anything you can get.
ML89 makes a good point here. David McInerney hasn't played full back in about 5 years. Wasn't working for his last 2 years full back. Had tough days. Lowen played in midfield for the first 2 years.
Remember
there,
that,
going back, wing back. Yeah, good stuff there from ML89. Pegleg Lonergan, and it can't just be for a semi-final. We lose far too many finals. I presume you're talking about Galway there. All Leinster final, great double for the weekend. Peter Duggan will miss his share, will win his share of off the ball, pardon me. Peter Duggan will win his share of ball off Lawler. Could be the winner of the game. Ryan Taylor needs a big game on Sunday. Like, Clare really need to be able to run that ball through the middle, and they did that at times against Kilkenny last year, but either ended up with stupid pot shots from nowhere, or like David Fitzgerald went through, popped the ball to Aaron Shanahan, it didn't stick, and that was a great chance to get a goal.
Yeah, that's right.
And you know, like, sometimes there's like key parts in games that can decide it. Like, maybe you should ask Sean Brennan about this, but that black card that didn't happen for Adam Hogan on Paul Crummy, that was at a stage when Dublin had kind of settled down after losing Donald Burke. They were back in the game, would have had a penalty, would have had Clare down a man for 10 minutes, and maybe Clare mightn't have got that rush of 2-3-0, which kind of turned the game. Maybe you stay in a little bit longer, get a bit of confidence, you get to half time, have another chat. So, like, sometimes those moments, like Shanahan not getting the hand pass from David Fitzgerald or whoever you want to blame, that could be a huge part.
It's small thing, like that might think that seem like a small thing, but it's a massive thing. Yeah, you're probably right. Yeah, SSRI is one of a few that think it's going to be over for Limerick. He thinks it's all downhill slowly from here on for Limerick. Best days behind them. Part of me thinks, they're clutch. They're finding a way down the home straight by a point or two. Then part of me thinks, like, are they just waiting to be knocked out, figuratively and literally? And that's the challenge for Galway the weekend. I just think the 4 weeks will have them refreshed and in twos. Like, are you telling me that they're not going to be bouncing on Saturday? They're 140, about 150 minutes combined away from winning 4 in a row. You know, it's not as if they have this horrible passage. It's not as if they're starting the Munster Championship or they've been beaten in the first game in Munster. They have a couple of injuries. Confidence is down. Things are going against them. There's mutiny in the camp. Like, they're 2 wins away from 4 in a row. I just find it hard to believe that they won't be able to keep the train. Or, like, the train was on tracks, but I think it will be even firmer on the tracks after the weekend. I just think they're going to have it all right. They're so close to immortality and say they can smell it.
So just to ask the viewers there, when did Galway last beat Limerick in the championship? We talked about it beforehand, so obviously you know it, Michael. But you're going to do a bit of a quiz there, because I see, is it Porter is asking for it, so we'll have to deliver. But can I ask you my quiz question first? I just kind of stumbled upon this beforehand. So last year in the All-Ireland hurling final, Kilkenny 226, Limerick 31. So that's a grand total of 66 points when you convert goals into points. So huge amount of scores there. So 3 plus 50, so 60 scores in the game. How many players scored for Kilkenny in that game, and how many players scored for Limerick?
Oh, Jenny, like that's that's very tough. For Kilkenny, I'm going to say 8 for Kilkenny, and I'm going to say 10 for Limerick.
You're actually right with Limerick. So 10 scorers. Kilkenny had 15 different scores.
No way, really?
Mental. Jeez. I couldn't believe it, because I'm just looking, you know, the way on Wikipedia to sort of list the scores underneath it, and like Billy Ryan got a goal, Martin Keown got both a goal and a point. And then I was like, geez, there's some list here, and I counted up, it was 15.
I was just thinking, like, Mikey Carey got a point. Did Conor Brown get a score? Like, a lot of lads chipped in with one.
Tommy Walsh got a score. Mikey Carey got a score.
Tommy
Richie
Walsh got a score, yeah.
Branchfield, Wally Walsh, John Donnelly, Richie Hogan came on and got a score.
Mad things happen in All-Ireland final. Like, Cummins got his first ever point in championship in 2010. Jackie Terry got one the year before from
My brother.
from play. Yeah, exactly, yeah. And he still didn't get an All-Star. Jesus Christ. House private. I'll fly through my quiz, will I?
Yeah.
Okay. It's quite Limerick heavy, but that's okay. That's because SSRI thinks the dynasty is going to fall after this weekend, so I get all the Limerick stuff.
I don't, by the way. I don't. I think they're going nowhere.
I don't think so either. I think they'll win it the weekend. So the first question is, who is Limerick's most decorated hurling all-star? So who is Limerick's most decorated hurling all-star, and how many does he have?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Who is Limerick's most decorated hurling all-star, and how many all-stars does he have? Who has the most all-stars on the current Limerick squad, and how many does he have?
Oh, okay.
Okay, so who is the most all-stars on the current Limerick squad, and how many does he have?
Okay.
Name Limerick's 3 Young Hurler of the Year winners. So, name Limerick's 3 Young Hurler of the Year winners. All from different vintages. This is you won't like this one, but I kind of stumbled upon it, so we'll go with it. 2 Galway players are still wearing the same number jersey as they did when Galway last won the All-Ireland in 2017. Who are they?
2 players wearing, okay.
Yeah, so 2 Galway players are still wearing the same number jersey as they did when Galway last won the All-Ireland in 2017.
But you see, I kind of have a bit of a fixation on numbers and stuff like that. There was a time when I could tell you the number of pretty much every Premier League player. And I could tell you, like...
These are relatively obvious now, I think. But and the last one is, this is actually a Limerick football question. Name the 2 men that managed the Limerick footballers in 2023. So name the 2 men that managed the Limerick footballers in 2023. Just fly back through the questions really quickly. Who is Limerick's most decorated hurling all-star, and how many does he have? Who has the most all-stars on the current Limerick squad, and how many does he have? Name Limerick's 3 Young Hurler of the Year winners. 2 Galway players are still wearing the same number jersey as they did when they last won the All-Ireland in 2017. Who are they, and what are the numbers? And last one is, name Limerick's 2 football managers in 2023. Well, okay. Shane,
Joe McKenna is surely the most all-stars for them.
Correct. How many?
5?
6. Fair going now. Fair going.
A bear of a full forward.
We lost him from Offaly. He was an Offaly man originally.
Didn't he win like 3 or 4 all-stars in a very short period of time?
Very, very condensed period. Yeah. 6 in total, which is a fair going. Who is the most all-stars on the current Limerick squad?
Sean Finn.
Correct. How many?
4.
4 in a row, yes. Amazing to think that he has 4 is, considering the one in 18, they competed well in 19, 20, 21, 22. 4 is, someone will join them this year, I'd imagine. Name Limerick's 3 Young Hurler of the Year winners, and if you can give me the year for the 3 of them, that would be absolutely delightful as well.
Yeah, see, the first name I'm not even sure. Like, I threw in Andrew O'Shaughnessy. He didn't win it, did he?
No.
Okay. Seamus Hickey.
Correct. Year?
2000 and... I'll go with... So obviously played the final in 07. And I can't remember how their under-21s did that year. So I'll just go 06. No, because Limerick and Tip got to the under-21 final in 06. I'll go with 07.
07 is correct, yes.
Okay, and then another one, Kyle Hayes.
Kyle Hayes in 18, yeah. And
Thanks
the other one, you would have gotten it anyway. The other one was Mark Foley in 96. Okay. Of course. The 2 Galway players wearing the same number jersey.
Pádraig Mannion 5, Conor Whelan 13.
Excellent, very good. Yeah.
Well, that's I'm OCD, so I think that's why I have that one right.
Very good. And name the 2 men that managed Limerick footballers in 2023.
Well, I thought straight off the bat, Ray Dempsey, because he was gone quickly. And then I was like, Billy Lee, but I know he's gone. And that's the whole, but I actually can't think who took over.
Mark Fitzgerald was the name of the man that took over. He was in part of the backroom team. But interesting to see if any of our viewers got them. There was quite a bit in it now, to be fair.
There were good questions. There were good questions. Like I didn't get them all right, and I think that's good as well. If I'm getting them all right, they're not that good.
No, there'll be something wrong. Yeah, you have to be. Yeah, you want to be challenging people, you know.
Yeah. Okay. So then, just is there anything else we haven't talked about in terms of these games? What we should definitely do is mention the Camogie semi-finals that are coming up this weekend. So on Saturday, the precursor to Cork versus Kilkenny is Antrim against Tipperary, and I think most people would fancy Tipperary to win this game, even though, you know, forewarned is forearmed, because the county champions from Tipperary, Drum, lost an All-Ireland club semi-final to Lochgiel Shamrocks last year, so they'll know about the likes of Katrina Dobbin and so on. But Tipperary would caught the van and so on, and the forward line to be fancied there. Then the other one, Cork against Kilkenny, that's going to be the precursor on Sunday. So that will also be a tasty game, because one of the two big guns from the recent years is going to be gone.
Yeah.
It's all well to be delighted about, and if Tipperary come through, which most people would fancy, Tip will be delighted with that too.
Yeah.
So they're quarterfinals now, not semi-finals.
It's a horrible match for both Cork and Kilkenny. You'd imagine the winner could take some stopping, in the sense that they'll have an unbelievable test under their belt going into the semi-finals, but one of the big hitters is going to be gone. I think they met in last year's final. Yeah, they did. They met in last year's final. So either the reigning champions are going to be gone, or last year's finalists are going to be gone. Probably just about give Kilkenny the squeak in that. And I'd be the same as you. I think Tipperary will come through the other side. Tipperary have been progressing steadily. Tipperary in 3 or 4 semi-finals in recent years, like 3
in a row there.
Yeah,
couldn't quite get the monkey off the back. But like have drawn away to both Wexford and Kilkenny in the last couple of weeks. Like Dennis Kelly, who was part of the backroom team under Bill Mullaney, he seems to be getting great. I suppose there's a bit of stubbornness in how they're performing. Last week, lost the goalkeeper, had to make 2 other substitutions before half-time, but still came away with a very credible draw in Kilkenny. And to not have the sort of moral victory of losing by a point or two, that's very big for Tipperary. Like Cork and Kilkenny is a tasty enough game. I think Cork have kind of been a bit hot and cold at the start of the year. Didn't go great last year, so you know, I think that could be a tasty one as well. And then there's also the All-Ireland minor football final on this weekend, Derry against Monaghan. Geez, Monaghan, they keep punching above their weights. A first minor final since 1939. Geez, there'd be some celebrations there if they could get it done.
Yeah, well, if they did get it done, imagine that carry into the Dublin Monaghan game next Saturday in the All-Ireland semi-final as well. We drew Wiley on the show the other day, and it's obviously good times for Monaghan. And seeing as they're after getting this far and they're after beating a lot of big fish along the way, no disrespect to Derry or anything, but you'd love to see kind of Monaghan finishing the job. And I would safely say that they will get some clatter of these lads through to senior if the past 15, 20 years is anything to go by. They just seem to be able to get an awful lot of lads through and hold on to them. But if they're able to win All-Ireland, that'd be huge, particularly for the week that's in it.
Yeah. Like, comment and subscribe to help grow the OurGame channel. By the way, if you want to do a fundraiser, email events@ourgame.ie. We'll run a live club fundraiser for you. We're going to tee one up before the All-Ireland the All-Ireland final. I think also
maybe even 2, Shano. Maybe even 2.
Well, look, I mean, we'd be happy enough to do it. By the way, ourstore.ie is the home of the official merchandise of OurGame. And if you want to get the audio podcast, go to patreon.com/OurGame.
Shano, whoa. Who's going to be playing the All-Ireland final?
Limerick against Kilkenny.
Same. Yeah. I think Kilkenny will win by 2-3 in the wind-up. I think that'll be an almighty battle. The other game will be a battle, but I think Limerick might just have them at arm's length, as in 3 or 4 throughout.
I just want to see skin and hair flying in both games.
Yeah, and you want to see it allowed to fly.
Yeah. Okay, that's it for the show, folks. We'll see you again on Monday, and hope you enjoy your weekend.